Sing
Did the
something.
pads of wings?
Sing
So amazing to be loved. I follow
This the
you
intro.
to the moon and the stars above. Why are you bleeding? No
Oh, that's not the lyrics.
tampons, no maxi pads, because it makes you weird.
Okay.
Let that
Oh, it's still
blood run down your leg, girl. This is a man's world, and I don't like you covering it up. All right,
okay.
I'm done. You asked for
Welcome
something?
to a chaotic episode of Chaotic Truth
It's too
Live.
early. Oh, my chaotic truth clip from like years ago just
Yeah.
got banned the other day.
Wow, that's crazy.
Just got banned. Yeah,
That is
because
so
it had that
random.
it had audio from Hitler.
Oh,
So they
why you say his
finally blocked
name
it for
on
hate speech.
stream?
I mean, that's who it was. The man's name was Hitler.
Okay, we're not doing this. Okay, well, welcome to the show. It's not really a show. I was coerced into being here this early.
Oh
in the
yeah, wait a
morning.
minute. This too patriarchal. We got There we go.
I'm actually patriarchy personified today.
True,
So
true.
that's why
Yeah.
I'm a king right now, because I'm a black king.
That's what's
I
up.
am here to protect my peace, comfort, and respect, and
As you should.
through coercion only.
The coercion.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna try my best to be very coercive today.
Let's go. Let's go. Be coercive.
But yeah, this whole thing started because Yella, as usual, it's always Yella's fault. Period. Literally. We were having a conversation about a boyfriend sim. So hi chat. If you've ever heard of boyfriend sims,
hello.
Put a 1 in the chat, or you can put how many boyfriends you have via simulators. That is also an acceptable answer. Okay. But we started talking about boyfriend simulators.
Let's go.
And one boyfriend simulator in particular introduced a period tracking feature into the game. That's probably the best way to say it. It introduced a period tracking feature into the game. It's really cute. And you know, the collective men. What's in that Dixie this early? And a bunch of men online just lost it about the period tracking feature being added into this dating sim kind of game. It's more than a dating sim. It's got all kind of features.
It's an action game.
Yeah. It's got a lot. It's got combat and everything. Hey, Tommy B. He said he have 72 simulation virgin boyfriends. Let's go. None of my simulated boyfriends are virgins, unfortunately. I mean, fortunately, but
so you wouldn't let them.
They're not gonna make it too far without being, objectified. The game is called Love in Deep Space. This one game in particular. It's kind of like Final Fantasy meets a boyfriend simulator meets like a regular gacha game if you play mobile games. So some of those things may not mean anything to you, but it really is more than just any one type of game. It's almost like
now I've heard you use the term gacha game. What does that mean? Because I don't know what that means.
So in mobile gaming, there's a subset of games called gacha games. And these games usually are free to play, but they have microtransaction features.
Okay.
They reward you for coming on there every day. Very like dopamine hit kind of game.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got you because they got you. They got you. They got you.
They get your coins.
I'm playing the sound you were talking about before the stream started. That was my gacha game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got all like it's a very dopamine hit. This particular game, this subset of games are called otome games, which it means maiden in Japanese, and it's a subset of game made for women or girls, and they're dating sims. So that's technically what it's called, but it's a mixture of things. So we got on this conversation because Love in Deep Space introduced a period tracking feature. The men online collectively lost their minds. Man. I was saying that this is a weird thing for them to lose their minds over because there are other things in games that I could see them being like, this is crazy. But that was never one that I thought would be a trigger point for them. It was just very interesting. So Yella and I, professional tracker, you mean, or taker? I'm very concerned.
The taker part really got me concerned.
Very concerned. And Yella,
taker though.
Yella and I had probably a 4-hour argument on Twitch live.
Man, that was crazy.
Over the Overwatch menu screen about Love in Deep Space. I don't know about a game. I don't know about the male pornographic ones, I only know of boyfriend simulators or girlfriend simulators, which there are all kinds, and I played a lot of them. But I have never played the pornographic ones that are more male leaning, because you can only usually have girlfriends, and I have no interest in that. But there are so many. These games are not new. They are very there's like a whole spectrum of them. There's some that are more innocent, and then you go into ones that are full on pornographic. Love in Deep Space is not pornographic, but it's highly suggestive. So we started having that conversation yesterday, and it kind of trailed over into today. And so here we are. Yella, is there anything you want to say? Because your name is, I'm almost going to ban you from the stream immediately. Explain yourself. You're muted if you're talking.
I mean, I'm just here so I don't get fined.
No. You said we had to go live, so.
Well, technically. Y'all said y'all was going to go live.
Yeah, but you was like saying it in response to us having a long drawn out discussion in Discord about controlling humans.
Oh yeah, because I don't be liking to type. Y'all type too much.
Okay.
So well, I'd rather do a live.
This morning we were watching the Am I the Asshole video. I'm not really very motivated to share the video because I don't really care for her title of the video. I think it's more distracting than the point that we were getting at. But it was an Am I the Asshole? This lady's married to a guy that's been married 2 months. He does not feel comfortable with her using tampons. He has expressed this to her, and he wants her to keep using pads. And so, you know, she's like, I'm going to keep using tampons. He then proceeded to throw them away. And then when she got on her period and could no longer find her tampons, she was very upset with him that he threw them away and had a reaction to him throwing away her tampons and her now being on her period. And he got upset and was like, oh, you're abusing me because you're yelling at me. And that's pretty much the situation. And so that is why the title of this is Period Policing, because he wouldn't give her a reason. He wouldn't tell her why. He would not tell her why he was uncomfortable with her using tampons. She said she's repeatedly asked him. And, you know, he's just like, I'm telling you I don't like it. I'm uncomfortable. So you should just kind of stop doing it. So
yeah, I think that's weird. So does any dude listening, any of y'all have a problem with a woman using pads, tampons? You have a problem with a period tracker in the game? Like, does any of that land funny for you? I'm just curious. I would have never thought, especially a tampon. I've never thought a tampon would be the line in a relationship.
I mean,
I wish I was shocked, but I'm not.
I think it's just because he feel like he couldn't follow the tampon.
I mean, that's crazy.
I think sexualizing tampons is strange behavior for me, but I can't say it's new because I've even heard moms say they don't want their daughters using them. They don't want their daughters using tampons. I've heard moms say they don't want their daughters getting pelvic exams under a certain age, even though they can do them under anesthesia. Like I've heard these sorts of things that of bodily functions being sexualized. So I wish it was surprising for me, but it's unfortunately not, and it doesn't feel like a reach.
That one caught me off guard. I really, honestly wasn't expecting that. But this the language around it. That's the language around it that was really about. It's like I don't even know. I don't want to call it my gender ego, but I have a sensitivity around things that are slighted or biased too heavy to the woman's side. And I think there's a lot of that in here too, because Yellow was feeling that too, talking about everything's controlling. If we say anything at all, it becomes controlling. Like that part bothers me, but I get where it comes from. I get that comes from the feminist thing, but I also think there's a misinterpretation of what we're trying to communicate.
Yeah.
Like, so specifically with the tampon thing, it was like coercive control was on the label of the video. Coercive control.
Which is actually a thing, but I don't think
which is a thing. Doing that. Absolutely a thing. Yeah, because he was not trying. He wanted her to do what he wanted, but he wasn't trying to make her comply because he'll just do it himself. Like I'll just take your tampons and throw them away. Like that's control.
Yeah.
But he's not trying to force her to do it herself. Like, which would be coercion. I'm trying to get you to go along.
And that's why I think it wasn't coercive control, because typically even in the law, coercive control is like there's a pattern of interwoven controlling behaviors and violence. And it may not be violence against the person, but it may be punching a wall during the argument. and now you've lashed out in this violent way. Yeah. And now the next time they suggest something, underneath that suggestion is the threat of violence. So for it to be real coercion, there has to be like a pattern of there's this violence, this lashing out that is now become a threat to you, even when it's not an overt threat. So that would be more coercion. In this situation, she never said he had been violent or lashed out. So I feel like it's not in the realm of coercion, but it is controlling behavior.
Yeah, definitely controlling.
It's controlling behavior though.
Yeah, so. And it's covert because he was hiding. I ain't gonna say hiding. He was sneakily throwing away her products. Yeah, like he didn't do it in front of her. He didn't threaten her. Like he was like she would leave some products somewhere, he would throw them away. And then one time she hid the products. He found the hidden products and threw those away. So he wasn't even confronting her with the disposal of her tampons. So that's what I'm saying. There was no like threat or force in there, but like the force was him throwing them away. Like,
right. So it's like it's really like you don't have an option. I think that's what it speaks
you don't have an option.
So. Like I'm pretending you have a choice, but you don't.
There's a rule. Yeah, I asked you. There was a request, but you didn't know the request was a threat. Like the request was, I'm going to get rid of these. They're not going to be in here one way or the other.
Yeah, that was pretty much a statement. It wasn't really a request. I wanted it to make it seem like a request, but it really was a statement. Because if you don't listen, I'm just gonna throw them away. So
that's the catch you walking in with the that one page. That one divorce page,
right.
That was stupid.
You're trying to make a statement. You're trying to, you're not trying to actually get something done.
Will you please sign this? Will you please sign this?
But it brought us to the discussion of people oftentimes how they not cross this bridge before marriage, because that's what brought us to the controlling conversation. Yeah. I think a lot of this is a conversation about what's controlling behavior. Controlling behavior is not only something men do. I think it's an authoritarian frame issue to me more so. That's how I like to say it, because we see women do this to their children. So we see people in authority do these behaviors across the board. It's not just a man thing. But I think a lot of people have an issue of knowing when they're being controlling versus when they are just advocating for themselves. And sometimes I think that line is blurry for a lot of people. And the conversation we were kind of having in the Discord was just the issue is not the making the request. It's a lot of time when people make a request, baked into that is an expectation of a behavior modification.
Right. Because I'm going to throw away your tampons if you don't.
Right. And it's like an unspoken request for a behavior modification. It's not communicated as a behavior modification always. It's just like, I'm telling you how I feel. So my expectation is that you're going to modify your behavior.
Okay, so that's where I think I was having the issue, and that kind of tied into the whole period tracker thing on the game yesterday. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry, this is always gonna make me giggle a little bit.
No, because it was like right now. He was yellow strong.
Yellow was strong.
No, at its core, it's stupid. But for argument's sake, I also understand. I can, you know what I'm saying? The unfortunate part is that I can see it through the male lens, so I can understand where their stance could be on that. It was playing devil's advocate. Might have got out of hand.
You was playing the devil.
I was okay. Yeah, I was playing the devil's daddy yesterday.
The devil himself yesterday. Really.
I was. That's why I put on the shiesty today.
But But go ahead. What were you saying? Like, okay, so in the lads, in lads is love in deep space. When I say lads, I'm talking about the game. So what do you feel like? You feel like that relates to controlling?
So to the request, right? Because even if that concern was presented in a request, you tell me that the request is okay. But most requests have hidden behavior modification expectations.
Right.
That's a lot of words, fam.
It's true though.
Just to let you know.
You just call them loaded. Loaded.
Loaded.
Yeah.
They're loaded. But I like to be specific about what the loaded aspect is.
Right. What it's loaded with. Right. Because loaded still don't tell you what kind of bullets is in there. Yeah, they still don't tell you what kind of bullets in there. So this is what kind of bullet. This is what type of ammo you shooting with. Now we can say loaded.
Yeah.
For those who hear, you heard what we talking about.
Yeah.
But it's really it's like a double-edged sword, Because if you're telling, like, just specifically in this case, if you're telling men that the request for behavior modification ain't bad, but wanting and expecting a behavior modification is bad, then it makes the request moot.
Yeah, and I don't want to use language.
Can you repeat that?
Because I also think the way you're saying it is not what I'm saying. But restate.
I said, let me take it down. I see. Because I'm going off. That's why I asked earlier. I said, so is there something wrong with the request? You said no. The request is fine. I said, so why is the request typically framed as controlled? You said because most requests are hidden with loaded expectations.
Okay.
I was like, that's fair. I was like, that's fair. Right. I was like, that's fair because I'm requesting you to change something.
Right.
But so you can't. Right. So you can't tell me that having the request is okay if you're going to frame every request as an expected behavior modification.
So let me clarify that if you were just to say, I don't want you to do this thing, that's like straightforward. That's the request of a behavior modification. You're being straightforward. I don't want you to go out. I don't want you to play this game, right? That's just the request of a behavior modification. Hiding but most of the time it's not what's happening. It's saying, I don't like how this makes me feel. I don't like when you do that. I don't want you to use it. Why? A lot of times it's covered over, well, it's for your protection, or it's a bad thing, or whatever. But underneath all that is an expected behavior modification. So that's the kind of request I'm talking about. I'm not talking about someone just being straightforward and saying, I don't want you to go this place, which is also still okay. Right? Like, because whether you say it or not explicitly, the feeling is always underneath it. So like, let's use a different example. If I was going out to the strip club for a bachelorette party with my friends, you may or may not come to me and say the feeling underneath why you don't want me to go. You may just say, I don't want you to go. Right? Which is a request for the behavior to be not what you're about to do, which is a modification, which is always fine. Like, you can always make the request. But if the person doesn't acquiesce to the request, is what that means to you is kind of the part where I'm talking about. Like, what does that mean to you if you were to ask the request, however you asked it, whether you say it overtly or covertly? What does that mean to you if the person still chooses to do the opposite?
Yeah. So Yella, what I heard you a minute ago, and it wasn't because of the mask. It was because you had kind of changed the qualifier, so I understood it better this time.
Right.
So you're right.
Lipstick. Hey, Mr. He said.
Yeah, hey, Mr. He said, Red Lipstick, Quantum, Ty, all of y'all, man. Appreciate y'all. What's up, you're right. So the only reason to make a request is because you desire a behavior modification. So the qualifier that me and Bree have is the expectation. So you can hope, you can want, but when you expect, like, there's almost no point in requesting. That's like that. There's a lie baked. If you expect and you request, you're lying. Yeah. So if I expect you to drop down when I say, hey, Yella, do you think you want to exit the stream? But I expect you to do it. I'm being dishonest with my communication. I drop you. Yeah, that's a lie. So that's the thing. That's the problem with expectation in a request. There can be a hope in a request. It's an ask. So there should be an option to not receive what you're asking for if it's a true ask or a true request. Yeah. Like, that's where the problem is. If you don't do it, and I'm going to take your stuff and throw it away or break it or lash out, it was never a request. It was a lie. It was a demand in disguise.
So that's where request for change gets murky in relationship. Because if I make a request for a behavior modification and it doesn't change, then it almost is it. Then it becomes a demand. Then it's ultimately going to become a demand.
That's an escalation.
Right. It's going to escalate to an expectation. Yeah. Because I need it to change. Because I can no longer handle it. Hold on. I can no longer handle it being that. So when it was presented as a request, it was treated as a demand. Then once it turns into a demand, it's going to become controlling.
Right. So it was always controlling because their only option was to
see. Now that's what I'm saying.
Like, look, because there's a reality that's why I say you make a request, they didn't do it, and then
so
you
that's
like,
when I say
the conversation. because of the conversation that may have come from, and y'all may have come to a place of understanding, which is like what I think really has to happen if a request is made. I don't think requests should be ignored. I think if someone's coming to you making a request, it's a reason, there's a feeling that you probably want to explore as to why they feel that way. But you can get to the end of exploring the feeling of why they want it and still decide that you want to move forward, because it may be more of a them thing. It could be an insecurity. It could be a trigger without any real pattern to justify that they are justified in feeling that way.
Yeah, but what if it is? What if they're right though? Because we can always approach it from the stance of the person having the issue being the problem.
Well, if they're
either
right,
person could be wrong. Either
person wrong.
But hear me out. The stance we've been taking is the person, and the stance that we usually take in these conversations is the person making the request is being the unreasonable party, because their request is violating some type of autonomy, adulthood, space, some type of movement or freedom to move within the world. I promise you it's that, especially when they come to me. I've seen it in too many occasions with too many different, if it's whether it's the period tracker on the game, whether it's requesting to see your natural self without makeup, whether it's requesting to see your real hair. There's a bunch of requests that are just taken as automatic control and automatic manipulation when it comes to these type of situations. So you can't tell me because my request escalated to a demand because I'm not in a position to get what I need in the relationship. You can't tell me that my request was always a demand.
No, you can't say that. So I'm not like, I don't want to bring in how other people talk about this into how we're talking about it. Because when
I'm saying it generally, that's generally the conversation with us too.
Because even yesterday when we were having a conversation, the only reason I would say is controlling is because if you make a request, a demand hidden as a request, then you're already communicating in a deceptive way, and it's not the best way to communicate. Now, can someone who's emotionally intelligent, who's really invested in you, get over that? Yes, we had the conversation for 4 fucking hours yesterday. We got over that wall. So it can happen, but see how long it takes. So what I'm talking about here is if you have a demand, be clear that you're making a demand. And that demand in its very nature could be controlling. If I'm doing something that makes you feel a way, and so the expectation is for me to just not do it without a conversation of, well, why does it make you feel that way? Why does it make you feel that way? Is this something I've done that actually makes you feel like I can't handle this or I shouldn't do this? Is there something, maybe I breached your trust in the past? Have I breached your trust in the past? And now we're working on rebuilding that. Your request is reasonable. If I cheated on you in the past and we're trying to rebuild trust, and I'm going out with my friends, which was the same situation that led to me cheating before, and you say, I don't want you to go. Okay. Very valid reason to say you don't.
So what if it's something completely brand new? What if it's a new behavior?
If it's a new behavior and there's not a pattern, and maybe it's triggering a past situation you had maybe with somebody else, but I
can't impart that on you, because now I'm imposing the me. That's a me problem.
Right, but that's you. So you may come to me and say it, and I might say, okay, what makes you feel that way? And you was like, well, in my other relationship, I was cheated on, and she did this. And I might say, okay, I understand, and I hear you out, but I'm gonna go ahead and still do it. But maybe we can make some concessions. Maybe I'll check in with you. Maybe I'll blah blah blah. But I may still go do it. Like it can work out both ways.
Then I'm just gonna say it like this, because that's why I'm saying it specifically with men to women. Because we're hearing that a lot of requests, even in the most rational presentation, are going to be framed as some type of controlling stance.
Okay.
And it makes no sense if I'm making a request, even if it's for future stuff, even if it's for something I don't like, for something that hasn't happened, but you starting to do shit that I don't like. Because even that what you're doing, right? No, I'm seeing it now. Like. But see, my thing is that my proof of trust had to be something that you were doing in the past.
Well, if someone, that's why I also said a pattern. But that's why I always said a pattern, even if it's not.
And I'm sure, I'm sure with how these conversations go, I can't use anything in the past that affected me to try to modify your behavior, because then I'm going to be told that I'm imposing some type of filter. So it's not going to register as a behavior that you need to change, or
It may
something that
not.
you
It
probably
may.
That's what I'm saying.
It may or it may not.
So
It
I
may or
mean,
it may not.
9 times out of 10 it won't.
Okay, but if you, once again, this is that thing where I understand you're saying this is how people do it, but for the sake of our conversation we're going to have, you're either going to have a conversation in good faith when I say it can or it can't not. If I'm going to say what I am actually saying is it can go either way. You can make the request based off something that's you, and the
anything could
person may
go
or
either
may
way.
not change it. But that's what
Anything
I'm
can
saying
go
here,
either
and
way.
you're retorting
Anything
that
can
that's not
go
how
either
it's going to
way.
go.
No, anything could go. I'm saying that when
Okay.
anything can go either way. I'm just
Okay.
saying that from what people are saying in these type of situations, it don't go that way.
Okay.
It very seldomly goes the opposite way.
Because most people expect a behavior modification. And so if they don't get it,
I
they
mean,
lash
yes,
out.
it's a request.
Then it's not a
So
request.
it's some
If you're
type
gonna
of
lash out.
let's, for the sake of this, right? I'm using it like this. A request has some layer of expectation. My expectation of making this request is that it will work out in my favor.
Okay.
My best case scenario, my hope is that it'll
It's a
turn into
hope.
this favor. Right. My
Right.
expectation is that it'll turn into what I want.
Okay.
All
And if
these
it
things
doesn't, then what happens?
Then it's like, do you leave or do you stay and continue to kind of be okay with the situation not working out how you want it to, kind of acquiesce into your partner?
Okay, so if your partner tells you no, yeah, then that's what happens next.
Right.
And
but
that's what I'm saying. If
is,
it was
what I'm saying
truly
is
a
this:
real
when it comes
request, then
down,
that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't care about you or they didn't understand you or they don't respect you.
I mean, but a lot of times it's not because of that. You're right. But it's more or less because it's about them. People are so individualized. It's not even about them not caring about you.
Yeah, potentially.
They're
They
so
may feel
focused
like
on
they hear what you're
right.
saying.
They
and
so
they may
focused on
say,
themselves. They become so focused on themselves and what they need that anything, even a request, even an implication, even a discussion sometimes. We had a whole discussion that
that's maladaptive toxic behavior on the other side.
I mean, yeah, but if you can't, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes people can't even have a reasonable conversation about the shit.
Well, yeah,
you can't reach no middle ground to right. No, that's what I'm saying. Even within relationships, even within regular talk.
Yeah. And this is the reason why people can't often have the conversation. It's because too much of how they feel the other people feel about them or how the people think about them are baked into their requests. A lot of people can't be told no. A lot of people can't be told no. And that's not a male specific problem. That's why when I'm saying
I got you on that, but you said, hold on, no. What did you say before that?
That is the reason a lot of people can't have these conversations. Because a lot of people in relationships feel like they are entitled to certain emotional space and certain behaviors from their partner. You are entitled to certain things if you're in a committed relationship to people. I'm not saying that, but oftentimes there's an overreach. There's an overreach in people's belief of how a relationship works.
But apparently you can't have zero you can't say you're entitled to something. But then
when you're entitled to things in
for
relationships, you're entitled to, okay, if you're in a committed relationship, you're entitled to fidelity because that's what you agreed upon. Unless you enter into an open relationship, we're in a monogamous relationship. Therefore, I expect
what else?
You not to sleep with other people. I expect you not to physically harm me in a relationship.
What else?
That is an expectation.
What else? Those is like the basic.
If we live together, I expect you to contribute what the agreed upon amount is in the relationship.
What else? What are the emotional expectations?
That's gonna depend on what you all decide that you want to enter to. Just like everything else, I can't move in with you and then say you without us talking about it. I can't just decide I pay 70% and you pay 30%. And a lot of times within the emotional needs and expectations you have in a relationship, for some reason, people don't feel like that has to be agreed upon or verbalized. People just go in and expect you to know.
Because most people can't agree. Because you either supposed to know or you supposed to do what they want. Exactly. There's no agreeing. There's really no agreeing ever really, like not ever really, but like
there's no conversation. There's no room to negotiate. Right.
No, it's hella conversation, it's arguments, it's fights, it's
Right.
breakups, it's
No
all of those things.
negotiations.
Right.
There's no negotiation.
Because the idea behind a lot of this shit is that anything brought to you is a problem with me.
And also there's the other side
So
of
there's
people
no
feeling entitled to things that they don't have a right to.
If your first thought about what I'm bringing to you is a problem to me,
Well, that
like
shouldn't be
my
the first
problem to
thought.
fix, then you're not even going to consider what you're
No.
doing in that situation.
And I'm not having an all or nothing conversation. I'm not
I
saying
know,
that
Bree, and
everything
I'm not.
okay, but I'm not saying everything the person comes to you is gonna always be them. It's gonna be either or, but you have to negotiate, you have to explore. In the tampon situation, he would not tell her why he felt the way he felt. Therefore, the thought couldn't be explored to see if
I
it
feel
was
like
really just
that's
him.
I also feel like that was
But
so
even if
fake
it's
and made
for the
up.
sake of the conversation, it's still an example. That what should have happened was he should have been able to say why he's uncomfortable with it, and then they can
He's
have a
a
conversation about it.
terrorist. He's a terrorist,
Okay,
Bree.
but a
If
lot of
he's
people are
sneaking,
terrorists, is
okay,
what
so
you're
he
describing.
right. That's not what I'm describing, bro.
You're
That's
describing
really
an
not.
emotional terrorist. It's everything you come to
No,
them and bring to them. They're saying it's
no.
controlling. They're
There's a
terrorists.
difference between this, and that's why I'm using these two period examples as what I'm talking about. They both get wrapped up into the same context. Some dudes being like, hey man, that period track on that game might be just a little bit too immersive.
Okay,
Is
that's just
also
an
put into
opinion.
the hold on. It's also put into the category of a nigga sneaking behind his girl back, throwing away his tampons. There are two vastly different approaches to
You're
what the
not
fuck
saying they're
somebody is
one
saying.
to one the same situation.
I mean, it's in the same ballpark. It's in the
It's
same league.
it
It's
the
all under the guise of control, and it's
in
all
the
under the
way
guise
that you
of
just said it. The first one was an opinion, and the second one was not a request. So they're
right.
not.
But if you say something to your partner, then you being controlling. When I was talking
No,
about why it was an issue, Bree, you were telling me how that was controlling.
if the expectation is that she stopped playing the game or women don't play this game because you
That
feel
was
that
the
it's too much,
I'm talking about everything I
then
said
that's
in the
controlling.
conversation yesterday.
I didn't
I'm
say
talking about
everything you
everything
said
you
in the
said.
conversation was controlling. That's how you
Basically,
feel,
when
but
it
your
came to
feeling
the
isn't reality.
when I came to the other side, when I came to the other side and I was talking about why I could see why it'd be problematic, basically
Okay, and did I
everything I
not
was saying,
agree? Did I not agree with why role playing games can be problematic for people? Did I not do that?
I wasn't specifically talking about that.
But
You
did
were
I not
talking
agree?
about that one thing. You agreed on that. Yes, I said we didn't
Okay,
agree on everything. When I stepped to the other
okay.
side of the conversation, then it
And
became what I was saying was controlling. I'm
what was my
saying it.
issue with the period tracker that I was saying was controlling?
That it's period policing. You trying to tell women
I
they can't make good decisions. Like you were making it
okay.
seem as if men were trying to be controlling on how women participate or their daily functions and all this other shit.
Hmm.
Like you definitely was. So
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. There seems to be no difference on
And
how
I'm
this is
telling you the
being
difference.
approached. How? What's the
The
difference?
difference is if you make the comment with the expectation of a behavior modification, that is controlling. If you're just saying an opinion like, I think that's weird, that is not controlling. They're
Yeah, but
different.
having an opinion on it is
No,
still
having
if
an
I
opinion
haven't
is not controlling.
it is, Bree. It is,
Okay, so
Bree.
are you gonna tell me what I'm
Because it
saying, or
was
you just
given.
gonna
I'm
because I
telling you what you
literally
were
just said
saying
having an opinion is not
because
controlling.
you were given the idea of having an opinion also makes you just what I'm saying want to
No,
control
having a
the
loaded
attention.
opinion makes you controlling. And the guy said that
You
they
couldn't
want
even
attention.
understand why them dudes had you. I don't even know why they got a problem with this.
I don't know why they have a problem with period trackers in
Right,
general.
because you feel like there's a problem with them having an
No, I
opinion on
just don't understand why they have a problem with period trackers. I'm saying what I mean.
it. Okay.
I don't understand why they have a problem with period trackers.
Okay.
I'm not saying they shouldn't have a problem with it. I'm saying I don't understand it. I'm saying
Right.
what I mean.
There's also no explanation that would clear up the understanding.
Once again, when we had the whole conversation yesterday, you
Because
were
as soon as I
saying
started
that
talking about,
you were
because soon as,
saying
mhm,
that you feel like having that integrated with the game is bringing it too much into real life, which
yeah,
would be akin to like a woman putting her work schedule in. You think that's crossing the lines, and the more you cross the lines, the more immersive it can be and the more problematic it can be, which would bring you into a slide into maybe losing a grip on what's too immersive. Is that not what your opinion was?
yeah.
Okay, so what am I not saying that like you're acting like I didn't understand what you were saying and I was saying something else?
Because it was a pushback on why the idea of a period tracker isn't problematic. It wasn't even really a consideration on why that period tracker in that context would be could look problematic. Because
Okay, so then,
any point of view was treated as
and
trying to
that's
kind
not
of
what I said,
manipulate
because
you.
I said I understand that role playing games can be too immersive. That is a problem with role playing games across the board. When you said how you felt, I agree with that aspect. But now you're saying everything you said, I gave pushback to say it was all control.
As far as the game, as far as
Yeah, as far
specifically
as the
lads,
game, I'm listening to what you're saying.
right, right. As far as specifically lads,
Yeah,
and this new function that was added to the game.
right.
Because you was sitting here saying that this game ain't even that. You probably don't even get to the
No,
point to
I
where you
actually didn't say
experience.
the game wasn't a game. I said it's a boyfriend simulator and it's
I didn't say it
suggestive. I
wasn't
said
a
it's not
game.
pornographic.
You said it's not pornographic.
It's
This
not pornographic by
we didn't
definition.
right. That wasn't what I was saying. I was
I'm
never
still trying to
arguing the
figure out.
pornographic version of it.
I'm still trying to figure. We've had a
Okay.
4-hour conversation and we came to an agreement. And now today you're saying that everything you said, I pushed back and said it was controlling.
I mean, we came to an agreement to stop talking.
I didn't agree with any of your points. I didn't understand your point of view. When you said that you thought it was too immersive, I pushed back on that, which I did not. So today you're saying something different. So I'm just trying to figure
So
out when I said all
let
this.
me try to super clear up what I'm talking about. We were having a conversation, and once it turned to me going to the side of, well, I can see why men would think that the period tracker on that game would be a problem.
Right.
That's when it became a full-on disagreement about what I was talking about. And that's what I'm talking about. Like now, that's what I'm saying. Like now, I'm saying that. I'm speaking the points about the game specifically, and there's still a disagreement on it, because anything about the game was to be the game wasn't that bad. It's not even it's more like Final Fantasy. The boyfriend and with a like boyfriend
multiple aspects. So it's not just that.
It's like Final Fantasy and a boyfriend simulator. You don't even get to the smut part unless you play to a certain level.
And that's all true.
Right, but is it part of the game?
And I also said the game is what it is. So I'm trying to you trying to say like I was telling you that this was not the case.
Right. I mean, you kind of were, because when I kept going back to the period tracker, you couldn't understand the link between that
because you were seeming to think the period tracker was the part of a different part of the game that it wasn't.
No, I wasn't, Bree, and I don't look, bro. Is it all in the same title? Is it all under love?
It's in the game, yeah. It has 3 pillars. The game has 3 aspects.
No, Bree. Is it all under the title Love and Deep Space?
It's in the game, yes.
Is it all under the title Love and Deep Space?
Yes, it's in the game, Love and Deep Space.
Okay,
yes,
so it's all in the same game, Bree.
Okay.
You keep trying to make it seem like because hold on. And that's what gets frustrating with me as somebody who actually play games, is that you keep saying it like it's in different modes. Yeah, that's a different mode to play. Or that's a different style. Yeah, you did, because you was like, that's not even part of the story mode.
That's not part of the linear
side quests, right? It's not part of the linear storyline. I play games with linear storylines.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, because they also have side quests or other modes that you can go to, or you can play in a different style. Like you might be able to play certain games in a certain style and it modify how your character act. I'm pretty sure that's how games like this work. It modifies how your character act by how you play.
And now you're using the argument I made about the guy in the video to say I was saying that to you. Because you asked me about the man who made the video, did he have enough context? And that's when I said no, because he might not have played it enough. That's when I was talking about that. But now you're taking it out of context to say that was my argument.
To be fair, I was asking you for context. I told you that I had zero context on it. The only thing
we didn't start the conversation with me doing a full breakdown of the game. Is that what we did?
I've been asked. I'm not.
I sent the video yesterday. Did you watch it?
What video? I watched the video with that.
I posted a video of a breakdown of the game so you can see all the different aspects.
Oh no, I didn't see that. But I'm taking your word. I'm also taking your word for it.
Okay.
I'm also not sitting here like you're telling me that these are aspects of the game, and I'm not. I'm trying to figure out the right place to put them, because for some reason every time I try to apply it, I seem to be applying it in the wrong place. And that's what I'm saying. And that's why I'm saying there's no point to make a request if it's always a loaded answer, or if it's always framed to be put in the right place, to be put in the wrong place.
Right.
Right.
It's frustrating. What I'm hearing is frustrating.
Right.
I can understand that.
Right. So instead of making a request, it would just be easy to tap out.
Yeah,
and just let the situation proceed how it is. Either sit there and don't say nothing and shut down, or leave and go find another relationship to go deal with.
Right, which is, I mean, it's really not possible to maintain long-term relationships if you don't have the resiliency to stick out frustrations. Because relationships can be frustrating, just like conversations.
Yeah, but I say that too. Like, don't get it twisted. I'm with you on that, because some people ain't resilient. But at this point, there's no reason to be resilient. There's no need to be resilient if there's nothing, if there ain't no motion getting made.
I mean, then I would say if you're in a relationship and all your requests and your attempts to communicate with somebody is met with no's every time, then I would agree with you that that person's not worth being with. I agree with it. I don't think you should be with someone who every time you make a request based off how you feel or uncomfortableness or something like that. If every time you're telling them and you're actually going through and saying, this is why I feel this way or whatever, and they're saying no to you every time.
Yeah, but the no's.
I'm not going to tell you to be with somebody like that.
The no's are not coming from, oh, I don't want to do it. It's, I'm not going to do it because you're doing something bad to me.
Regardless of why they always say no to you, the fact still remains that they're always saying no.
I mean, now it ain't regardless of the fact.
Oh, well, they're still saying no. If they're still saying no to you, regardless of how they arrive to
then if no means no, then we can just end the conversation.
If the partner always says no to you, why are you with that?
No, I'm saying because there's reasonable no's. But if no means no, then there's
but it shouldn't be no every time. It's two people in a relationship,
right? But no means no anytime. Then.
Okay, but if they're always saying no to you, then why are you with them? Because it's both of y'all in a relationship.
I mean, who knows? I don't know.
Okay, so I'm not saying that you should be with someone who says no to you all the time, because you seem to be trying to make this an all or nothing approach. It's either I say nothing, or every time I say something, I'm met with a no, and that's not the conversation I'm having.
I don't even know where to put the foot down in this conversation. Like, I don't even know where to step in this conversation, and this is kind of like an example of what I'm kind of talking about. You can't make a request. You can't make a request if low key under the request is going to be framed as controlling, or I got some type of nefarious idea behind it. The same way that if there can't be no reasonable understanding on why this would be a problem,
right?
Because I'm having the conversation with you, but if I say this is that, no, it's not that. It's this. It's like your adjustment of what I'm saying is almost just like a minor adjustment.
Yeah, you're not.
No, it's not part of the game. No, it's not. I'm having it in good faith because
I'm saying it. I'm talking about in your example. The person's not having a conversation. I'm having an example.
Right. I'm using the conversation with us right now.
Yeah, you're not giving me good faith right now.
Why not? If I'm going 100% by the information that you give me.
You're not.
Okay.
We're not having this conversation in good faith. There's been multiple points throughout this exchange we just had where I've tried to ground the conversation, and that's when you're telling me what I'm saying and you're like, it's the absolute will. It's always this way. I'm trying to ground the conversation, saying that is not what I'm saying. And then I restate what I'm actually saying. And you're like, well, we all know that's not how it's going to go. Oh, we know in real life that's not.
I mean, because 9 times out of 10 is not, or we wouldn't be having a discussion on why it goes like that.
You coming into the conversation with the bias of not good faith. So
I'm saying, no, Bree, I'm saying if it was handled properly on a regular basis, if things in relationships was handled properly on a regular basis, we wouldn't be here.
Okay, so you're coming into the conversation with me with a bias about how relationships are, which is why you can't have the conversation with me in good faith.
Okay.
I mean, you're not having a conversation in good faith because your bias about relationships is outweighing what I'm actually saying in the conversation. So every time I say a balanced approach, which is like, yeah, theoretically, it should go this way or that. You say it and you're like, well, that's not how it goes in real life anyway. So that's not how it goes, is it? And I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do with that retort? I can't have the conversation if I'm trying to have a balanced conversation and you're going to just keep throwing in a bias to the negative, even when that's not what I'm saying. And you're just going to use how everybody does it in real life to overcome my point. So then you're not really having a conversation with me. You're having a conversation with how everybody else out there do it. So at that point, how can we move forward in the conversation?
We bring Rashawn in. Rashawn, that's how we move forward in the conversation.
Yeah, I don't think he's here right now because he probably would have.
Oh, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm here.
He ain't going no damn well.
I've just been in this moment before. When mommy and daddy are fighting, it's best to just go play my video game. Yeah,
Right.
so just go turn the game on, put on Contra. Yeah, so I'm here. I hear both of y'all. Y'all both some knuckleheads.
Yeah.
Having listened to both of y'all, I did not want to jump into yesterday's conversation because I would have been frustrated.
Yeah.
And this is just yesterday's conversation.
Right.
And there's no solving this conversation because of both y'all. Like it's the y'all ever seen in a cartoon? You ever seen in a cartoon where like one person has a spear and they're trying to attack the other person, but it's like moving so fast, it's like spears are everywhere.
Yeah,
that's Yellow. And then Breeze the like Goku, Ultra Instinct. So Yellow's making all of these points, but the points are everywhere. It's not one point. It's not one. There's 15 points Yellow's making. He thinks he's making 1 point, but there's 15 of them. And Breeze dodging them all. But she's never going to get the point if she's dodging them all. So like that's what's happening in the moment. Because you're trying to get a point across, but there's 15 of them. And she's dodging all of them. And that happened yesterday. And I'm seeing it happen today. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want that. Because we ain't going nowhere. There's never going to be a point made if she's dodging them all and you're throwing 15 at one time. So, to Yellow, so you can see what I'm talking about when I tell like you're throwing 15 points. We're having a conversation about period policing, which is we've determined that these dudes are unreasonable in trying to police these women's period and adding sexualization. Like, do you agree with that point? Like the dude hiding the woman's tampons and asking her not to use tampons. Can we agree that that's unreasonable?
Man, that's beyond unreasonable. That nigga need like an assessment. So he need a 72.
That's
crazy.
That's where this conversation started. So what I mean by like multiple spears, you took it from that point and then you threw a second. No, we always talk about when people are wrong. Let's talk about when they're right in their request. So that's a whole new spear. So we could have tackled that spear, okay, when people are right in their request, but then we address where people are right in their request, and then you were like, no, let's talk about this angle, because when I specifically, me, Yella, try to have this conversation, so you keep moving the goalposts, like you keep throwing different points out here, and Breeze evading them to try to get back to some grounding, like, okay, we need 1 point, and I get that, but then when Breeze doing that, because she's trying to get back to a grounding, she's missing some of the things you're saying, and it sounds deceptive to you because I hear it too. And it happened yesterday. Like when she said that that's not in the game, because she clearly, unequivocally said it's not in the game. It's not a part of the game. But I heard her through explanation. She wasn't saying that it's not a part of the package. If you open the game, you won't see it. She was saying it's not an essential part of the storyline, because she went on to explain that. So in good faith, I understood when she said it's not in the game. Like you could sit there and play it. The actual gameplay is not you sitting there being swept in swoon. That's not the gameplay.
Right.
But it's a part of the game package. Like, but there's just good faith. I'm just trying to explain why I understood when it felt like she was being defensive and moving and being deceptive. Right. It wasn't her trying to be deceptive. In good faith, she just explained it poorly because she didn't understand how much weight was going to be added onto it. So, it was just like lazy language because I didn't think it was going to be a thing, but you hung up on it for 3 hours. So I would have said it differently. If I had known, I'd be here 3 hours later still talking about, is it in the game? It's EA. It's in the game. It's in the game. So I hear both of y'all. I don't know how to resolve that, though. Like, we can attack it point by point, like 1 point at a time. But it's got to be 1 point at a time. Because as soon as we move it, the whole dynamic shift. Because this is one of those things that has so many layers. The moment you move it, the layers have moved too.
It changes to a different conversation.
Yeah. So, like, when we're talking about the people who are like trying to period police, there's one level of layers. When we talk about men, period, in general, can't ask anything of women, that's a whole nother set of dynamics, internal and external. Then when you talk about you can't have a conversation with Bree, even though there may be some parallels, it's because a whole nother set of dynamics. It's like, which one would you prefer to start with?
And we can start with where I was trying to start, I guess. The period police.
Yeah. So, like, Yella, since you agree it was irrational. It was irrational. Why do you think? Because I don't understand why Bree says she doesn't understand why dudes are having a problem with it. I understand women have periods. I understand that they use products to help maintain their hygiene during these periods. I would hate to have a period. I will say I had it. Okay. Nah, I ain't gonna get TMI. Anyway, why do you feel, Yella, that you understood? Because you came in kind of with the empathetic yesterday. And I was lost. I was shocked that you came in understanding what these dudes are talking about, and that you sounded like these dudes. I was like, who's this nigga? Because you sound crazy. But
what dude where? What dude specifically?
Yeah,
no,
the dudes that came in talking about you came in talking about. I would understand. This was your almost exact language because you parroted it again today. I would understand why dudes would have a problem with the period tracker in the game.
That's it.
I believe
that's it.
Yes, right.
That's it.
So, right. So because you said that, what I'm saying internally when I heard you say that yesterday, my initial impression of that was, oh, this nigga done lost his mind. How could he even understand that? I can't understand that. You went on to explain further, and I understood your concerns about the escalation of immersion and how detrimental that could be. But secondarily, the inclusion of your private data as far as it knows too much about your personal life. And that's a step too far because it wasn't just period stuff. It was like if it knew your work schedule, which is completely not biological at all. But you still had a problem with that.
In there.
Vagina was part of it.
Connected to your vagina. It was also
vagina was part of it.
That is weird though. That is weird though. And more specifically, I'm saying is because the main thing I'm saying is you have your virtual boyfriend attached to your IRL vagina. That's the point I was trying to make.
Right.
You're replacing you're trying to replace the comforts of an actual man through a boyfriend simulator to a level that you really need to start looking at yourself. If you sitting up here programming the virtual boyfriend to say all these nice things to you, then you probably need to go out here and go get a man that could do that. Like you probably need to go do. No, you probably need to go do that because, and I think that's where the conversation got kind of jumbled up yesterday. Is because if that's the main thing, if that's the main course for the game, or that part of the simulator, or that part of the function is the comfort, the reminder, those little things like that is coming specifically through a certain filter. If it was a bot or like a regular voice, if it was like you have such and such company, they probably wouldn't be there. That's why I said the period tracker standing alone makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. Y'all ladies are just so consumed with life and being awesome and generally great that why would y'all keep up with that? So I can understand it. Right. Plus you said it's something right. Plus you said it's something that's functional with the doctor. So on that note, I can actually understand it. But my whole stance was never the actual thing of policing that. It is weird though to have your virtual boyfriend somehow attached to the real functions of your Gucci.
And it is. That's abnormal. Like Bree said, it's groundbreaking in the gaming industry. So it is weird in the fact that it's unusual, it's abnormal, it's atypical. That's absolutely we understand. It's perfect. You understand? It's weird. Boom. Okay, it's weird. Now, where is the problem? It's weird, but where is the problem with it? Like, so especially from the man's perspective, especially from the guy who is with someone, what's up, what now, 23G? From the guy's perspective, what impediment does it have in his life that she has this incorporated into her game? It's like, where's the actual issue for the man?
So
like, what does it impact
where the issue from the man would be, and that would be if she's participating in that, because it could be something where she's not being so forthcoming with her partner, because it's almost like he should know what to do, but she's sitting up here committing. So it's like, I mean, it's all a possibility because nothing happened. If it's that groundbreaking, nothing happened. Nothing has happened. So this is all
problem for him is that she's not being forthcoming with him about what her needs are.
Right. We see how that play out. He's supposed to know what to do, all this other shit. So she's getting what she needs from the game.
Boyfriend, her husband, though.
Right. But the trick is that she's implementing it. She's not actually finding that genuine connection that she wants, she's typing this in. She's controlling it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why that's a scenario where it would become a problem. You know what I'm saying? Also trying to disconnect from that. And if she's not with anybody, that shit can start setting the crazy things. And it's a double-edged sword because it's kind of like the same thing with the dudes, where I can agree that seeing like IG models and them crazy ass characters that they have on them games. Because I know the games you be talking about, them dudes be playing, Bree. I be seeing this shit. And it's like
the games niggas be playing because I be playing them too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm a girl gamer when the industry
started with
has been 95% crafted for the male gaze. So
they started with Chun-Li, boy.
I play the same games y'all play.
Nigga, they got games where Chung-Li doing some other shit. They have games out here, my nigga. Like they got some real shit where these guys can play some old wild ass games, right? But
spinning sidekick.
Right.
It does start to become different when you are tapping into something emotionally, when you also tell us that women are mostly emotionally driven. So it could really set a terrible standard on what she could expect men to do. So and it's because it's I'm gonna wrap it up just real quick, because that ChatGPT thing you have posted kind of said it right. You know what I'm saying? It could be dating is hard enough. You know what I'm saying? Dating is really hard enough.
Yeah.
And we really don't that level of immersion of murky the water is like a motherfucker.
What I will say is I think the concern you have is the same concern that people have had for men as far as pornographic material. Unrealistic body standards set by virtual women, pornographic women. So these concerns you had, that's why I was like, your concerns are valid, because what I'm hearing are the same concerns people have said they have about men consuming porn and playing too many video games for the longest. And this is still a video game with highly suggestive themes. So yes, those issues are, I believe, are there. It's just this time the player base is 95% women. So it's for women. So that's why I was even yesterday, I was like, your concerns are valid, because these are the same things people have said about the effects of the body standards on men.
Yeah.
It's just emotional connection for us, but in the hierarchy, that's higher for us than y'all.
Yeah.
Right.
So the way I see what you're saying, Yella, like there's 2 points, and I was trying to retain them, because like I said, you throw multiple points out there.
My bad.
No, it's cool. It's cool. One is, yes, the women could have a standard, but the point before that was the one I really wanted to get to, was that women are trying to supplement or replace what they have in the man. Like you started with the man not being told what her emotional needs are. I wanted to ask you, what do you think is wrong? Like actually wrong. Like, okay, it's like an emotional support animal, but it's a video game. What is wrong with her getting this need filled? And I want to give an analogy. Like maybe the woman or the man will cook a dinner and they season it how they season it. That's how the man brings himself to the relationship. He made this meal. But when she sits her plate down, she puts a little salt and pepper on it, or a little Lowry's, or some lemon pepper, however she likes to season it. That's the game. So this meal, he's presenting himself to the relationship. And she's like, okay, this is great. But you know what would be great? If Chung Woo on this game had a little razzle dazzle.
Oh, you talk.
Why did
you get that?
The meal still
you
good.
You gave that scenario to the wrong person.
So, but the meal's still good.
If I cook you a meal, and the first thing you do before even tasting it is put something else on it.
But now they're in a relationship, so they're in a relationship, so it's been tasted. The meal's been tasted. Yeah, it's their relationship. So they've been eating.
No, okay. So the equivalent to what I'm saying is I cook you a meal, but I put everything on there but this one side that you want. Okay. But the problem is you never tell me that you want this one side.
Gotcha.
You just continue to eat the meal. But inside, you're stewing about this one side that you ain't getting. Like this need is growing for this side that I never put on the plate. But I'm also not knowing that this side is required to be put on the plate. So you go somewhere else. Okay. Because that side is definitely more important than anything like the mac and cheese. Mac and cheese technically a side.
And see, you changed it into a side. Yeah, but that's what he's saying. If this is if for the women, this is a seasoning, not a side. Like if it's just a seasoning.
And I would say, like, real quick for Yella, because of the complexity of this is where it gets difficult. I would say this implementation is a seasoning. Emotional connection can be a side, but it can also be the main dish. So, like, this is why this stuff is complex. It's really hard to conceptually grasp.
I will understand. I can understand what I'm hearing is what I would describe as an anxious thought.
Yeah, for sure.
Like what you're expressing to me is an anxious thought.
Yeah. Because it's always skewed towards the negative.
Right.
And she hasn't told it. She has this need that's going unexpressed. She's stewing. She's stewing. There's a lot of there's a lot of language in there.
Which I can understand an anxious thought when you're in uncharted territory or unfamiliar territory. So that's why some people say, well, how can you say the feeling's valid and then still choose to do something else? Because that is a valid thing. I mean, like anxious feelings when you're in unknown places, I think it's very valid and normal and real.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think what the response to one's own anxious thoughts should be is where the issue come up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because there's been just extremes, we always go to extremes. Like somebody could say something and your feeling of wanting to punch them could be completely valid. Like they could probably even deserve it, but would it be the right behavior? The behavior wouldn't be valid because it's against the law. It would be assault. It would, what I'm saying? It's like there's levels to it. I know that's an extreme, but like there's on a smaller gradation, like, okay, she is playing this game. I don't want her to play this game. That's a valid feeling because I feel threatened in some way. It doesn't have to be because he's insecure. It might be because I know she's prone to addictive behaviors already.
Right.
She's trying to get rid of her. Yeah, or it could be any number of reasons, valid reasons why he's concerned about her participation in this immersive game. She had a Second Life account that she lost her job to before. It could be any number of real serious things. But what's your behavior? Like, what's your behavior behind that? Like, that's the thing. How do you respond? Do you throw away her tampons? Like, that's not a valid response. That's not a valid behavior. It's not based on anything that's grounded. It's based on solely your feeling. The feeling is valid. Once the feeling comes out of your body into a behavior, that's where you have to validate it with reasoning.
And typically, I think anxious types are more controlling. And that's why I say when I have the conversation about controlling, like I know that like a lot of people say, oh, it's controlling anytime. But I'm not saying it that way. Like a lot of hyper anxious people are hyper vigilant. They control their environment more as a way to stay off the anxiety. So like I also understand why anxious feelings breed people wanting to control things that are outside of their realm of control, like other people or being hyper fixated on their environment. Like I do truly understand that. And like that's not necessarily just a gender thing, but I don't always think people understand that what they're experiencing is an anxious thought. And if you can't understand that you're having an anxious thought, then your expectation would be that people should yield to your anxious thought. When sometimes you're just having an anxious thought and you have to bring yourself down.
Yeah. And we know this, Yellow, like, and I know you understand, like, if we flip the genders, we automatically get this because this is what we talk about with women all the time. A lot of the stuff that they say are men's problems are a lot of times their insecurities or their anxious thought. Like even was it female intuition?
Yeah,
a lot of times it's their anxiety or insecurity because their intuition doesn't work for anything else. It only works because your man's cheating. Like that's the only time it works, and even then it's 50-50. So it's like a lot of anxiety it masked as like intuition, and it creeps into all parts of life. So I'm with you. I do agree on the possibilities of a problem. I just don't see that as a legitimate problem that guys can, like, outside of their specific woman in a general conversation. There's no real reason for men to feel like this is a problem, as opposed to all the problems that already exist. Like everything we're seeing on Kendra G is magnitudes greater than this inclusion in the game by number one sheer numbers. The demographics that are playing this game that we're going to actually interface with, very few of the women we would interact with are playing this game. So the problematicness of this is like limited in scope. So, but I mean, societally, if you want to make like a big macro thing, societally, I still even think it's not even that big of a deal, because if women are saying because they don't have a way to quantify this. We want a man that's emotionally intelligent. We already know that if they get a man that's emotionally intelligent, they typically have a problem, because the man demands that they regulate their emotions.
Yeah, you got to regulate.
So we're already running into problems with them getting what they want. They wouldn't be able to live with a man that is emotionally attentive to the degree that they're programming this game to. The ones that we're typically talking about in these conversations, those type of women. Because a guy that's that attentive and that attuned is going to make them feel inferior, because they don't have the capacity to reciprocate that. So they, even in a real relationship, they couldn't walk this out. It would make them feel uncomfortable that somebody cared for them in this capacity. So like we see that we hear those conversations come up too, where he just treated me so good, and I just didn't feel that.
Honestly, we're taught that they're psychopaths. Mm-hmm. I mean, I literally watched a thing about coercive control, and that is one of the things they teach women. Like, if he's literally doing every single thing you want and he's perfect,
love bombing,
run. He's probably a psychopath. And so, I mean, they ain't just pulling it out of their ass. So that's why I was like, I mean, we're generally told if a guy, it was literally like these guys in the game. Yeah, I agree. He's probably a psychopath.
Because it's atypical for a man to be that attentive and attuned. It's atypical. And typically the people who put that degree of investment of energy into a woman is typically to extract something of equal value. They don't just do it because they're, I mean, so, but
these characters, their whole life is you, like literally. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it belongs in the realm of fantasy, because they literally, their whole life is central to you, the character, the main character in the game. And that's just like ridiculous.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want that in real life.
But I would say that's where Yella's point, one of the points Yella made yesterday, comes into. It doesn't just stay in fantasy, because of the example that Kendra G has shown us. These things that they hear start to all coalesce into standards. And I'm not going to settle for less than this standard. If he doesn't pay attention to me on my period like Jung Woo did, you know what I'm saying? But
I'm just laughing at the name.
Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this game isn't going to be a thing, but if that idea got put out there
completely dysregulated and they're like completely detached from reality.
Yep.
I keep saying a lot of these people are in psychosis. I think some of them could use an outlet for their fantastical beliefs.
Yeah.
Instead of putting them on real people. Like, I totally agree with all of that.
Yeah. So I get everything y'all are saying. I just in parts it has different implications and applications. Yeah. So that was my thing.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I felt like it's a good conversation to have, because I do feel like it's a problem in relationships. And once again, I know people talk about men doing this, but I know some women who I constantly have to call out for this behavior all the time too. I think men typically lash out in more ways that are violent, but women do the same thing. And now that coercive control is like actually by law a thing, I think more women we will find that more women fall under that. Because typically women, lash out in other ways and not just like violent ways. But it's these requests that people give under this loaded emotional, like, I feel, for a woman example, a man games and he has a gaming crew and he gets on the game and he plays with them. He's having a good time. And I don't like how I feel when you get on the game with your friends. It makes me feel like you don't care about me. It makes me feel like you don't want me. Right. And we all know that behind that conversation is a request for a behavior modification being made. Even though she's just coming to you saying how she feel, and she may stop there. There's no man in their right mind who is walking away from that conversation not understanding what she is trying to get them to do without saying it directly.
Yeah. And if I may, because Bree, you did a scenario like that earlier, and I wanted to call Cap then, and I want to call Cap now. That's not how women communicate that. That was very sensible. And that's not the way it comes across.
Okay.
You always playing these little video games. You need to be doing something else. You can be making some. You were being an adult and mature about it.
Because the person I talked to, that is how they communicate. because it's
okay,
Shaki.
the person you talk
she
to.
not
Okay,
like.
she's a very
That's
reasonable
what I'm saying.
woman.
I was giving a real example,
Yeah,
and that's how
she's a great temperament. Yeah, she's too
right.
cool. Like the typical people that we deal with don't communicate like that about, especially our video games or our hobbies or our friend groups. There's a
But
lot
that's
more
why I use
shame
that
and name calling.
situation, because
Yeah,
I think if a
yeah,
person is coming at you aggressively, then obviously they're in the wrong. But we're not
yeah,
gonna we don't get anywhere because the principle still remains, even though she said it very reasonably. Even though
yeah,
she said it very reasonably. That's my point. Like the point is
yeah,
still he's not doing anything wrong. And so she says it in a very reasonable way,
yeah,
expecting a behavior modification from him because I'm being
yeah,
reasonable, I'm being nice, but you're still being controlling because nothing has happened.
yeah.
And you feel some type of way about something he's doing that is not actually harming you.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
even so, that's why I use that example, because she
That's
is being
fair.
nice.
That's fair and that's true. But I want to reframe it because that's not how we live it in reality.
Mm-hmm.
What gets lived in reality is what Yella brought out yesterday. There are expectations of men that it's automatically assumed that we're immature or childish for playing video games. That's baked in.
Right.
So we already have a sense of shame about doing this. It's preloaded. So when they
Right.
come, and women are preloaded with this conditioning too. It's childish, it's infantile, he's a boy. It's like I'm his mom. So they don't come with that compassionate request, as you said. They come with a much shame, guilt. You shouldn't be
Right.
doing all this. You got stuff around here you need to be doing that you could be playing with the kids. But
Of
I'm
course.
playing on. I'm on Halo with the kids. I'm playing with the kids. Y'all can need to be outside. There's a lot of it doesn't get employed the way you're talking about. And then I get what you're saying. You're 100% right.
So in that situation, like what is if he in the situation I'm saying, if he decides to still continue what he's doing, a lot of times he's villainized the same.
Right. So my point in trying to make the distinction is not that his actions are wrong. It's that they're perceived wrong internally and externally.
It's the
So
bias they bring that makes it wrong to her.
It's a distinction because you'll think you're doing something wrong. It's a harmless behavior, but you've already internalized that you're wrong for doing it. Kind of like we talked about women in their fantasy. You feel wrong for why am I having these 5 boyfriends in my fantasy? I feel wrong. I need an excuse for it. I need context that justify, they're from 5 different lives that I've lived. But men sometimes need permission to live too, whether it's expressing themselves, like Yella said, zesty, sassy, weak, soft. Why are you so we need permission on our side for things too. And I wanted to bring that to this conversation because it's not as simple as the woman made a request of the man and he's not doing anything wrong. We need to bake in that he is seen to or thought of as doing something wrong. Like that's like a modifier, I think is
because I think that's why a lot of the coerciveness works, because a lot of people are raised to be shamed, and shame means behavior modification. So a lot of times in this dynamic I'm talking about, he feels no shame for the thing. And a lot of times if you're running into somebody who you're telling them you're using the coercive behaviors you were taught as a child and it's not working on them, the reason it's not working on him is because he feels no shame about it. Right? So then a lot of times you bump head about it. I'm patriarchy. Call me Pat. I'm patriarchy today. So like in this situation I was given, which was a real life, very specific situation, he does not yield because he feels no shame about it. And the reason he feels no shame about it is because it was a accepted behavior in our family. All of us are gamers. We were allowed to be gamers. So now they have an impasse because the manipulation tactics that would have worked on a man who was shamed for it his whole life are not working on him. And he's not doing anything wrong. And he doesn't feel like he's doing anything wrong. So now we end up in these highly emotional, volatile situations where now she's reacting to being told no.
Okay, real quick. She's been told no. Can you go over like what is her condition that she feels is being violated in her request for him to play less or play not?
Yeah, it's a very real thing. And that's why like the emotions are valid. Like you're not taking care of your stuff. You're not paying attention to the house. Maybe, or in like I've had this conversation with King too, because he's a gamer and there's very wide spectrums of like him gaming when he first gets home versus like you've been gaming for 12 hours. Like you are doing too much. And so sometimes, and sometimes the reality of the situation is it's both. Like sometimes he has played for 12 hours, and I'm like, okay, I feel like you're doing too much, and like it's making me feel like you don't want to chill with me. We've had those moments, and then we've had those moments where maybe I was tripping because I had a little baby and I was tired looking at her beady eyes all day. And as soon as I heard the PlayStation sound, I lost it. And in that situation, I wasn't valid. Like my behavior for losing it, I was invalid in that situation. And sometimes in the same relationship, it could be both.
Yeah. So I wanted to anchor it like this because I didn't catch all of the scenario you laid out because I was thinking about something. So in the situation, you're saying he's doing nothing wrong, but I wanted you like to qualify that. Like video games by themselves are not inherently wrong, but situationally they can be. Like if you're neglectful of something else, like in your situation, was there a neglect there, or was it just a feeling of neglect or a competition?
It's probably both, but I think the tolerance for what makes a neglect is very low. It's like also loaded. The longer you're with someone, you bring in other situations and other things that happen, and so it's like, oh, is it going to be that thing? It can be an anxious thought. Like, is it going to turn into this? Oh, they're turning it on. Is it going to turn into an 8-hour session? Or, you know, it's men and women in here. Are they talking? Who are they talking to? You know, so it's like it's a bunch of different things. I think that makes it triggering because it's triggering basically.
I got that.
And the person is really good at sometimes seeking outside ways to ground themselves. Like, am I tripping right here because I'm triggered? Okay, am I just truly being triggered, or am I like being like realistic about being triggered? But that's a healthy person. Like, I know what y'all are saying is like most people are not healthy and they don't handle it in a mature way, and they don't have other people that they trust to help them ground themselves. Like, I totally get that. But I think it's useful to know that the point still remains that a lot of people come at you saying it's like, I just feel I'm a victim. Like, please change your behavior because I'm so harmed by you existing in this way.
I get you. I get you. I just want to say, like, most people don't come with a request. Like if I say of men, I think people, because of that thought that men are inherently dangerous, we escalate past request as a default. Like everything has to escalate when communication comes to a man. So I think there's a preconceived notion that if I don't start like I've even heard this from women. If I ain't yelling and cussing, he ain't paying no attention to me. When I just try to talk regular, he ain't listening. Like I've heard that quite a bit too. So like if there's a feeling that if I don't escalate in some way, I'm not being paid attention to. So like there's a default level. There's a baseline that's higher than just a human being. And there may be some of that because I know men and women with their partners, they tend to tune each other out over time. But I'm saying there's a feeling that with me, and I got to get a little louder. I got to start cussing for you to pay attention to me. Like, or even with same with kids.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I hear people say that with kids. Y'all don't listen to me when I say it cute.
Yeah. But I hear that with like especially like with small requests. Hey, can you get the trash? Hey, honey, can you get the trash?
Yeah, and then she like take it out. Or she just takes it out like loudly once you don't take it out, which means you were like asking me, which once again I hate that. You weren't asking me. You made me seem like I had a choice, and I didn't have a choice.
Yes. All that's loaded. So that's a good example, like the trash.
Yeah, that's loaded.
A lot of times those requests are not just requests. And that's what I wanted to get to, because we started there. Yella's like request versus demand thing. Because Yella definitely had an interesting thing with the request versus demand. I got a request, but then when you don't do it, I got a demand. And I was like, well, I wanted to ask Yella, why do you have to demand, like, unless you had the expectation? And again, I want to clarify this because this is a hard concept in, like, even in my head. It's okay to want a change. That's why you're making a request in the first place, because you want to change. But like expecting it to the point that if she doesn't comply, that I'm going to demand it. That feels extra. That feels like that next step. It's a step above.
Okay. So I say that because kind of like the point y'all was just making, right? And it's this weird dynamic. So if you look at like the parental dynamic, all right, those. So, man, we finna put some shit together, y'all. Hey,
let's go.
Look, next C3 show, y'all gonna be like,
the voice and the sound of C3 working together.
I seen graphics looking cute. I said, okay.
Is this the same shit?
Graphics looking cute, looking clean.
Yeah.
I said,
yeah. All right, but The thing with like requests. So if you look at like the parental thing, right? There's clearly a power dynamic there.
Yep.
They don't have to make a request for you to take out the garbage, but they do it under a courtesy. Especially as like younger children, they do it as a courtesy.
Okay.
Because that's their way of kind of like that's how I do. That's how I do with my son. If I ask him to do some shit, you know what I'm saying? It's better than that. Get your in.
Kiss
Yeah,
culture.
yeah. Because I also don't want to. I don't ever want him to think that there's a time where you can't say no, kind of thing. Don't ever feel like you can't say no. You can't say no.
But you gotta
You
feel like
can't
you
say
can.
no, but I want you to feel like you can.
Right. I'm talking specifically from parents.
I
And
get what you're
kids.
saying.
I'm talking
I
about
get what you're saying.
specifically from parents and kids.
Yeah, we'll
I'm
come
talking
back
about
to that.
specifically from parents and kids, right? That's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. That dynamic gets a little weird. It gets weirder when it comes to relationships, right? Because I can't put a demand on you, but let's call it what it is. My request is also coming from a place of need. That's what's really hitting it all. And that's why I say I get what you mean by anxious thoughts and how you feel about it. That request is coming from a place of need. Not all the time is that request just going to be able to be bottled up and just assumed to be a self thing. Like, oh, it's just me. I'm just tripping. Because if it continues and then becomes a problem, it's like that. It's like that thing where the kids do be you be like, hey, why don't you go ahead and take the garbage out? Come back like an hour, they ain't moved to go take the garbage out. You'd be like, hey, go take the garbage out. You know what I'm saying? I made a request. I made a request in the best way possible. You know what I'm saying?
Or get off that game and take.
Right. I made a request in the best way possible.
That sounded like a
and it was ignored. Though. Right. It was. Hold on. Hear me out. Hear the thought process. It's a request. I'm trying to say it because I'm still trying to kind of I'm trying to think it out to the end. I got where I'm at. But I'm trying to think it out to the end.
You're working towards it. I got you.
Right. In a relationship, you don't have that same type of power dynamic where you can enforce that demand on the second ask as a parent. But it's still coming from the same place. Like it's a need that I need fulfilled. Right. That's what I'm saying. So if I don't get that met, something might come out of that. Something's probably going to come out of that because now it's a need or in the relationship that I'm not having met. And that can become problematic. So now when it gets to the point to where that need ain't met and I'm probably having a problem with it, now I might get to the point to where if this need ain't met, I might have to leave. Then it might come across as a demand. Now, I don't know because I don't want to try to get into it and then we start breaking down like where the levels look like and how far this looks like and escalating because I understand that demand is different from a request. But how it looks in a relationship, ultimatums happen all the time in relationships. Demands happen all the time in relationships. If you don't do this, I'm leaving. If you don't change this behavior, I'm leaving because that is a thing. And to me, that on a certain level is a fair request. Because if not, we should just leave for any sign of anything. We should just leave at the first sign of everything. Because if I can't request some type of change because I care about you, I'm not willing to leave you. But Joe, it's something we ain't clicking on.
So you talking about
and it's coming from you. And it's coming from you. Like, let's talk about some real shit. Because I can understand how you talking about like it's an anxious thought. But
I mean, they're the stimuli still. They're the stimuli.
Right. Some people can't handle that. Right. Some people can't handle that.
Yeah.
That things changed and it's on you.
I mean, especially if the other person doesn't realize they're anxious. And that's why I think it's tied into like sometimes anxious people don't realize that they're having an anxious thought. And for them, it feels like this needs to happen because I cannot stay in this place. So what I'm hearing you saying still very much so rings true. And people who have anxious thoughts aren't just having them out of nowhere. They're usually related to things they care about and people they care about, or them trying to protect people they care about. So it's still a very human, and like I don't think people who are controlling are nefarious. Like in their in their need to control. I don't inherently believe people who need to control are just nefarious or meaning ill intention in that need to control. So I do want to establish that.
Need to control in a relationship has been seldomly painted as a noble thing, though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because the provider protector role. I mean, that's if you're a provider and protector, then you have to control, which means you have to control all these people, and then that means you're responsible for them. So that gives you anxiety because they're under your care and control, and so now you're gonna have to micromanage everything because that is a part of leading and controlling. So that is why a lot of times men carry this anxious thoughts about protecting the people around them because it's what they're told they're supposed to.
And it's still got to be done with it, and it's still got to be done with almost like a white glove kind of approach, though. So that's what I'm saying. Like controlling is controlling. Like the need, like if you got somebody with an urge or need to control, they typically want to control everything and need to control everything. But you can't control everything without, and this might not even come from a nefarious place, without a certain approach.
It's not nefarious. I don't think it's because women control their kids like to the same degree we're talking about. Intent
and process in this situation are two different things.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's still gonna look the same, no matter what the intent is.
Yeah, your intent can be well, but you're still the impact is that you're controlling.
Right. Because the same aspect look different, and I hate to make it a gender thing, but in a relationship, it is a gender thing. Because this is really the only place where this concept is challenged so much. Who gets to control what? What's controlling, what's not controlling, how far you need to go, how far you can go. That's why people struggling.
And also because authoritarianism is how people were raised. So a lot of people take their childhood dynamics and try to use them on other adults and relationships because that's what people do. Mm-hmm. So just like when you were to give an example, I don't raise my kids that way because I have sworn off authoritarianism in general, and I understand that you do it here, you do it there. So I don't do that. Like you were explaining with your kids, there would not be any threat behind it if they don't do. There would be no like, I'm gonna punish you or I'm gonna whoop you if you don't do it. If I'm making a request like, hey, can you take out the trash, and she says no, then I'll take it out. Because if it was really a request, then I'll just do it if she don't want to do it. Like, oh, can you take the trash out for me? Oh, I can't. I'm in the middle of a game.
That's why I said, it's not really a request. That's why I said it's not really a request because we playing schematics. They can't be the parent who in parent-child relation. The parent has 100% full-on authority.
But that's if they're in authoritarian dynamic. So that's why
you have 100% authority.
Well, no, that's what I'm. Hold on. But that's why I was giving my example of how I handle that same situation with the trash, because that's what I'm saying. I understand that authoritarianism is the reason it's confusing for people and why people communicate requests demands as requests, because that's a part of authoritarianism. Like you said, is that
Bree's talking about a parenting philosophy, like how she approaches her parents. Yeah. She has 100% authority, but she doesn't force her authority on her kids.
Right. So with that saying, so I was just giving an example because I thought that example was a good, clear reason why people ask when they're making a demand. But in my house where we don't like do that, if I really made that request, like, hey, can you take out the trash? It would really be a request. And if she said no, because like, oh, I'm in a game, I got 5 minutes, I probably would just take it out myself and there would be no other discussion about it.
So you wouldn't wait just 5 minutes? You wouldn't let her finish the game?
If she said no, I mean, if I couldn't get to it, I'd be like, hey, after you finish your round, can you take it? But if it was really like, I just don't feel like doing it, it'd be nice if she could do it. And I asked her and she said no, I just do it. I just do it. Because if I said, but then if I do tell her to do things. So I just say, take out the trash. And then sometimes, like, if I come back and she hasn't done it, I was like, didn't I say take out the trash? And she'll say, yeah, you did, but I was in the game. I say, but I didn't ask you. I told you. So you should have did it. So I like if I'm making a statement, I'll always say take it out. I don't ask them. But if I ask them, then it really is take it or leave it. I don't do that. I'm asking you if you have no choice. I'm just gonna tell you to do it. But I think it is an authoritarian thing. I think it's an authoritarian frame. It's like you said, it's like, oh, it's nice. I'm going to let you make the choice, but you really don't have a choice. I think that's an authoritarian thing.
Yeah. And I did want to speak to that a little bit because, like, again, Yellow threw a couple things out there, and that was something interesting. He was like, he wants the kid to feel like they have a choice, and that's something I would say in Black households comes up a lot. Yeah, right. We'll say we want them to feel like they have a choice, which is manipulative, but they don't actually have a choice. That's like almost like propaganda. That's like what governments do. We want you to, you know what I'm saying? It's like we want you to feel like you can vote for one of these two people. We want you to feel like something's going on, but we're gonna do what we feel like doing. We're gonna do what like so. But I get what you're saying. There's utility in allowing them to feel like because you want to engender a mindset in them where they feel like they can say something, because you don't want them being pacified adults. When they get to adulthood, you don't want them just going along with anything. Yeah. Go ahead. Jump in. You're muted or something.
Or for the ability to other adults to just be able to get them to do, because if they see me as the adult authority figure and I just demand, then any adult could probably have that type of influence.
You don't want them being completely compliant and agreeable. You don't want this danger. Right. You just following me off to the.
But I will say that I will say a lot of children raised under authoritarianism still do that. Like even when they're not under the parent, even though the parent they have a comfortability with you that they feel that. So generally, if it's other adults, they just yield.
Yeah,
which is one of the reasons I have sworn off authoritarianism for raising girls, because I don't want them. I need them to really know they're comfortable in saying no. So I have to walk it out.
I got a boy.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying.
Right. He probably can't. Right. He right. It's gonna be a different approach, but even still, I wouldn't apply nothing on him that couldn't be done. So if I was like, hey, could you go take out the garbage? And he'd be like, hold on, I can't do it right now. Playing for 5 minutes. All right. Now, if you said, hold on, I can't do it right now. Right. Okay, cool. Don't take it out in 5 minutes. Because then that's creating a different setting. I don't want it to be where you feel like you can say no, but I also want you to feel like you can negotiate, because at some point in our dynamic, you're going to become an adult.
Yeah.
And that's what
you know what I'm saying. You're going to become a teenager. You're going to become older. You're actually going to have that type of role where you can be like, well, no, Dad, now, because we're going to be negotiating bigger things than just taking out the trash.
But I find that people who were raised under that way never get that skill, because here we are in relationships and they still don't have the skill to negotiate.
Yeah.
I mean, well, yeah, that's my goal. Hopefully that's
right. I think most of, and that's why I'm like, I'm not really going to get on, because I think a lot of people come in the parent, they do what they think is best, and they like, this is what I want. But we know that people who are raised on authoritarianism never get the negotiation skills. And we see that in relationships. People don't know how to negotiate what they want, because it's also a lot of like telling under the guise of asking, which becomes a block when you're talking to a grown ass adult.
Yeah, it's other stuff you gotta like, it's other stuff that I implement, like that I, you know what I'm saying,
right. You would have to teach, and that's why I was like, I think if you
like, I gotta open, like, I'm gonna always have like an open door policy type of deal. Right. You know what I'm saying? So like you need to be able to come to me, because that's also a process that people don't have. Like, you can have that first part, but then they might not feel like they can come to you and come talk to you. They might not feel like they can open up and tell you what's bothering them,
because they know they can't really. A lot of times they know they can't really say no.
Right.
But I will say,
right. So you actually have to give them a little bit of that too. My bad.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, to move it out of the kids. Like, I know you were talking about ultimatums in relationships, and that's how people communicate. But King absolutely no ultimatum policy. Like, he does not, tolerate it, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that's one of the reasons why I think it just frustrates him. I think that's why he doesn't do it. Like, I think that whole, like, I'm gonna pretend you have a choice, and then I'm gonna like actually like give you the horrible options to basically you're basically telling me that I have to comply with you. I'm gonna lose you.
Right.
Like, he does not tolerate it, because it's so frustrating, and I think he knows it's a form of manipulation. A lot of, because that's how he was raised. That's how he grew up. So he just doesn't tolerate it, because he sees it as manipulation, because I think he was, raised under that kind of dynamic. So he really does not tolerate that. Like, if I come to him pretending I'm asking him something and I'm not, like,
right.
He gonna be like, we don't do that around here. Like,
right.
are you telling me you want me to stop? Like, we've had, like, when we first got together, it happened more because I think you're just trained to talk that way. I think that's how most people communicate. But I think, like, he would get very, like, clearly, like, so are you saying what I'm hearing you say underneath what you're pretending to say? And, you know, I used to, like, deny it. Like, I'm not saying that, you know, but over time, I learned to not do that.
So, you know, it's weird, and it just hit me. Like, it just struck my brain, right? So think about it like this. We have to ask y'all stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
I think a lot of men do make requests. There's men do make requests that way. I mean, demands that way. They act like it's a request.
So, right. Check it out. We have to ask y'all stuff that way because there's a certain boundary for demand from man to woman, right?
Definitely losing that person, yeah.
But that's how y'all want to be asked stuff. So y'all ask us things in the way that you want to be asked. The difference is we're not demand averse, right? Like, it typically, if you know
I know some demand averse men, and like,
reasonable versus unreasonable, right?
Yeah.
Like, because if you tell them, like, look, you need to do this, because if you can, there's certain demands that you can't deny. You always have to permit it, present it in the right way.
Yeah, I don't think most people like being communicated with directly in that way.
Because the thing about most ultimatums, I think, is that you are always permitted a lose-lose, and that's why most people don't like ultimatums, because it's typically presented a lose-lose situation, right? But there are situations where you gonna get presented one of two choices, and the other one might be the end.
Yeah, like, and if it's escalated to a point, I mean, if it's come to the end, then it's come to the end.
But, so we can't. I don't want to stamp ultimatum on every situation that look like that.
Ultimatum is do this or I'm leaving. That's an ultimatum.
Right, but see, most people gonna take leave.
I mean, well, that's when you give somebody an ultimatum.
That's a choice.
Yeah. No, I'm saying most people. If most people are ultimatum averse, then when it's given to them like that, they're going to leave.
Yeah.
Right. So
if they go ahead. I want you to get to your final point, because again, this is one of those layered things. We're throwing layers in here.
But no, I'm saying I was talking about the ultimatum, and I said that is probably like that because I don't like them either. Because to me, is like she said with King, feel like you getting presented a lose-lose situation.
Absolutely.
It's a power move.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Most people are going to take, because it's either do this or you can leave, or do this or I can leave, do this or it's over.
I mean,
and most people just gonna choose this over. Right. Most people going it's over. Right. Because it's always this thing. Not always, but we are in this place where this is going to be painted as like a controlling thing, when in reality there can be situations where if like this is my last step to try to like keep us together, or try to you know what I'm saying, say this or fix this, I'm telling you that. You know,
yeah, but they may say, I think if someone's just like, well, we've been trying, I think it's time to call it. That's not an ultimatum. Like, I think if someone was like,
that's not what I'm saying.
We've been trying.
That's not what I'm saying.
You like, either you change or I leave. That's an ultimatum. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's not an ultimatum, because it's not a lose-lose situation. If a lot of people can't accept that they're the problem. Right. And that's my point. And I think it's, like I said, it seemed to be like a double-edged sword, because you also can't tell people the problem. You're their problem, because they tell you that's a you problem.
Yeah, don't be with them.
You see what I'm saying? I'm trying not to add too much onto it.
No, you're right, but we need clear communication on this part, because this is where this is invisible. Like, this is, nobody can look at Bree or you and say who's wrong, because both of you are going to have a compelling argument when there's a disagreement, you're both going to have a compelling reason if we listen to you, which is why that outside source breaks up so many relationships. If you go and talk to your boys about what Bree did or said, everybody's going to be like, man, that makes sense. I wouldn't even deal with that. Right. And you're going to let her do this. And then Bree going to talk to her girls or her mom or whatever. And they be like, Yella stupid. He crazy. He controlling, blah, blah, blah. So you're right. And both people are going to feel right in their respective camps.
It's not about being right.
The issue is that, and this is something I was going to bring up, is that there's a you who has a whole set of needs and wants. There's a Bree that has a whole set of needs and wants. Then there's a relationship. There's a we. And that we has a whole different set of needs and wants. And people have a hard time separating the me from the we from the you. Like that gets lost in these. And like, yeah, you, and because Yella, you use this language like, if I'm making a request, it's from a place of need. A lot of people don't know what their needs are. A lot of people feel like the dude in the video about the tampons, where he hid the tampons. He said when he was talking to her about he doesn't want her using tampons, he wants her to use maxi pads. He was on the verge of tears. So to him, it felt like a need for her to stop using tampons.
Right.
Exactly. So his request, it was again loaded request because again he's going to use force to remove them. It's a loaded request. It felt like a need to him, and nobody knows from the outside until like a group of people get together and look at it. Nobody knows if they're unreasonable because it feels right to you. You feel right. She feels right.
He wouldn't be doing it if he didn't.
He wouldn't. If he didn't think this was the right rational thing to do, he wouldn't be doing this.
Right.
Nobody feels wrong. Everybody feels right in their head. And if you have if you have a certain group of people, they'll validate everything you're saying. Like we talk about with the women. Like what was that? What was that Madison the other day on Mavs? When she's cheating on her spouse with the person who's cheating on their spouse. She's facilitating cheating. She's a homewrecker, and then she's talking to her girl, Alan. That's psycho behavior. He ripped up. He burned your vows. That's psycho behavior. Not that you're cheating or breaking up somebody else's new marriage. She didn't speak to that. Like that's where some people have the problem because their friend group is so supportive, even of their fuckery, and that's where it's hard to know when you're wrong when nobody will tell you you're wrong. Which goes back to your point about women, Yella. A lot of times nobody's allowed to tell them that they're wrong. We can't even voice it. So then when we do voice it,
you can't tell them no. You can't tell them no.
You can't voice it. They're wrong. And even when you do, women will say things that dismiss it. But I'm saying that's a part of our culture that men can't, like, we can't give up to that. We still got to tell people that they're wrong. Like, otherwise they're just going to keep being wrong. And but there's a boundary issue here that I wanted to get to with the ultimatum. Like, you know, there was a lot thrown out there. The ultimatum thing, because you said people will typically choose leave on ultimatums. And I wanted to say, I don't think that's true. Because what typically happens, people that give ultimatums have low ability to enforce boundaries, which happen way before an ultimatum is even given. So anybody that's getting to ultimatums 9 times out of 10, everybody knows they can't enforce anything. Right. So they're not going to leave. Either you marry me or I'm leaving next year. Marry me or I'm leaving next year. Marry me or I'm leaving. People don't oftentimes enforce boundaries. So they know you're not going to actually follow through on this ultimatum. I think very few people actually, they put the onus on the person that gave the ultimatum to actually, they call their bluff. That's better language. A lot of people that give ultimatums, they get their bluff called and nothing ever happens because they complain, they whine, they cry, they change. Yeah.
If you really like can communicate your needs, your boundaries, you really wouldn't have to get to the point of giving a person an ultimatum.
Yeah.
Because if I was at the point where I'm really giving an ultimatum, I probably already made a decision that it's not for me, and I'm probably just gonna break. I'm probably gonna end it. Well, if I'm gonna give an ultimatum, I'm at the place where I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna be like, allegedly, you know what? We've tried. Yeah. We tried to work this out. We've been having the conversations. We clearly not just working. Yep. I'm calling it a day. I'm not gonna leave it on you to decide if we over it. If I'm at that point, it's almost like putting it on the other person to decide if this is over, even though you the one feeling all that it needs to be over because you giving it to ultimatum.
I ain't gonna fire you. You need to resign. Turn in your resignation.
Right. You need to resign.
Fire me. I'm collecting a check.
Right.
Give me this check.
So that's kind of like the thing behind ultimatums. A lot of time it's them feeling away and still putting it on the other person to be the exactor of what they already feel. Right, blame shifting. It's a manipulation tactic.
It is another manipulation. And that's another thing I want to speak to, because Yella, like, threw a lot out there, man, and I love it. It's loaded. But, like, I wanted to get to something from yesterday, the controlling and manipulation, because we say that and we automatically jump to the negative connotation. And I wanted to introduce to the comment. It's something I said a while back. What's up, Von there? Good to see you. Something I wanted to say. I don't think we should automatically jump all the time to controlling and manipulation as negative, because they're tools. They're tools, and they're going to happen. You're going to control, you're going to manipulate, because there's going to be a part of you that wants preservation, even inside of a relationship. And then you're going to want to, even to shape the we. There's a me, there's a you, and there's a we. To shape that we, there's going to be control that's needed, and there's going to be manipulation that's needed. So, like, it's necessary. So the types of control and the types of manipulation, there are poor forms of them. There are requests, like even the soft demands. Those are going to be tools. Like, listen, I'm giving you a choice, but there's not really a choice. But I'm not going to tell you that there's not really a choice. That's going to happen, because we're people. Everybody's not a therapist. Everybody's not a perfectly attuned, perfect
authority. It's part of exacting authority.
It's part. And people are both coming in autonomous and independent, and they're trying to create a shared universe. There's going to be some messiness in there, where there's going to be somebody is going to have more authority on some decisions, because sometimes there's a clash. There can only be one chair in this spot. Is it the one that you brought or the one I brought? There's going to be some control and manipulation in that negotiation. It just has to be. Even if it's to even call for a negotiation, you have to have some level of power and authority to even feel like you can negotiate. It's like power dynamics in relationships are always present.
Talking about when people don't feel that they have to give you space to negotiate, that tells you that they feel entitled to authority in that space. Because a lot of times that's what's happening. Like with the tampon thing, he would not tell her why he didn't want her to use them.
Right. Why?
Which means that he's entitled to the authority to just say don't use them.
Yep.
Just like how some parent might say, I don't have to explain to you why I'm the parent, because
I said so.
That's authority.
Because I said so.
That's because I said so. So typically, if a person's not giving you room to negotiate, either if that's by telling you the reason they're doing so you can challenge it, possibly, that's telling you that they feel like they have authority in that space. It's like indirect communication of authority.
Yeah. And there's got to be, and the other thing that I will say that women do more often is putting it on the man to make room for their voice instead of advocating for themselves.
You have to challenge.
Like, sometimes there's confrontation or conflict that's necessary for you to feel like a whole person in the relationship. And a lot of times women, I would say, fail there a lot, because it's cultured now that men are supposed to lead. Men have to lead everything. All the onus gets dropped on the man. Anything that goes wrong is the man, because he's the leader, the provider, the protector, all that stuff. And then even on that lane, it's like, if it goes wrong, well, did you make her feel safe to bring this to you?
You have to. Like, and that's why I say you always make the request, because that's your duty to yourself to advocate for yourself. And that's kind of what the request is, like, in advocating for the self. Like, that's kind of how I think of it. That's why you always make the request. I always tell my make the request. Like, I can say no, but now I know that you have a need or a want or desire here that maybe I wouldn't be aware of if you just never said anything.
Yeah.
So that's why I say you make the request, even if they may say no. And me saying no don't mean I don't care or I don't understand or love you or respect you or none of that. I might just still be vetoing what you're saying.
Yeah. And that's there's got to be room for the person to say no. There's got to be room for negotiation. There's got to be room on the other side, the Yellow's point. Like, if you ask the woman, there's got to be room to hear a request that she thinks is foreign or crazy or unreasonable. And she can say, well, where does that come from? If she automatically says that's weird, I'm going to go complain to my mom and my friends, as opposed to, well, where does that come from? Well, why is this important to you? Like, okay, I hear what you're saying. You don't want me to use tampons, but this is just a feminine hygiene product.
You got to be willing to tell her why.
You got to be willing to tell her why. And if you tell her why and it's reasonable, you have to at least be able to, there's got to be something, like, this is where I say we don't have a mechanism right here. When you've told her why, and it's, well, because of toxic shock syndrome, that TSS thing, I've read that on the label. I think I'm worried about that, right?
This is where it falls apart.
Yeah,
this is where it's about to fall apart now, right here.
Sure. Okay, she's like, okay, I've addressed your concern. It's not really a problem, but you still feel strongly about this. Now, what's the next step? Because if it's just, well, I feel strongly and you got to stop it, or you have this concern, but I'm not going to change anything. Now we're at an impasse. There's got to be a mechanism at this point. Once you get to the impasse, we don't socially have a mechanism here. Like, this is where typically,
and that's why I was pointing out, this is where it falls apart. If the other person feels no shame or can't be changed, and you still feel the way you feel, this is where it falls apart.
Yeah, this is typically where we need a mediator. In a village or community, there's typically judge, mediator, chief, somebody that could arbitrate between two disputing parties, and you need that even for relationships. But typically, people have people that are yes men or yes women that are always going to go along with
you. Or they say, keep your relationship business, don't tell nobody.
Yeah, but there's got to be somebody that can help you navigate those, to tell somebody, well, what you're saying. And couples therapy is kind of the thing now, but you need somebody that can tell you, well, your request is a little unreasonable, or your response to the request was asinine. You need that.
Or through the therapy, when you get to that place, this is what I'm talking about. Benefit of the doubt, good faith is going to really carry you a long way, because you're not in real life going to always be able to call somebody or bring somebody in. But if you have those tools, this is the part when you're at an impasse and you've explained your reason, and you've heard theirs, and you're like moving forward with understanding. They're going to have to just give you the benefit of the doubt. They're going to have to just believe the best in you, that, okay, they heard how I feel and they're deciding to go forward. They feel confident. All right.
Yeah.
I got to give them room to self-regulate or walk it out. And I'm not going to inject all this negativity into that decision, which is typically what happens. People inject all kind of, they don't care about me, care how I feel, blah, blah, usually that's where all the anxious lashing out comes out.
Yeah.
The explosion happens.
And most of that is unfair. Like, we understand that there's a feeling there, and it could be a really strong feeling. And that's where it gets difficult, because most people do not have a mechanism to proportionalize. Like, is my feeling to the level of the threat or the perceived risk? Like, this dude that was throwing away stuff because she's using tampons over pads, that was over, it was out of proportion. His level of concern about how she mitigated her blood flow was out of proportion to any risk or whatever, because again, he didn't voice what his actual problem was. So that's out of proportion. I would say it's out of proportion to say that these games, like the boyfriend sims, are manipulating women by including the period tracker, because it's a boyfriend sim. It was already manipulating. It's a game. It's commercialized. It was already trying to grab and arrest attention. The manipulation was already been happening. This is just another optimization within that. It's like, it's out of proportion, your reaction. It's like, that's more selective outrage, but it's like, it's still out of proportion. To suddenly be mad now when it's been going on the whole time, that's crazy.
And that's all. That's kind of was my thing. I was like, this feels like a disproportionate outrage for what the outrage is versus like, that's why I was like, I keep saying, like, I can see it's a lot of stuff in the game. If that was the thing, I could be like, you know what? I see that. I can see that. But I just feel like it was disproportionate to what it actually was. Especially because it's something a lot of women already use. In some capacity.
The other thing that Yella said that I wanted to touch on too was, he said unmet needs and wants can become a problem. And that's something that people got to address in relationships too. Unmet needs and wants. Like, are your wants and needs going unfulfilled, and should they? Because sometimes what you want should be unfulfilled. What you need, that's a conversation. Like, not everything you want, you shouldn't have everything that you want. And I'm not saying you should be denied everything. I'm like, not everything that you want is useful or productive or helpful. Some people actually want things that are harmful. We know that because we say women choose bad boys, men choose. Everybody chooses things that they want, that they desire. It's not all helpful. The way I eat, I want a lot. I want 5 honey buns right now. I don't need them. Guaranteed.
You don't need all that. But you don't need every energy.
I want them.
You might see something is cute, and that don't mean you need it.
Yeah. So some wants, like the fact that he wanted her to change her feminine hygiene product, that's a want that for me should go unmet. Like, that is reasonable to not meet that need. But he thinks that to not meet that want, but he feels like it's a need, and that's where we have the problem.
He feels like it's a need.
He feels like it's a need. Yeah. And that's where I say we come into the problem. When people have a want that they feel like is a need, that's where it becomes a problem. Like, but a lot of times though, those wants that people think are needs are closer to a need. It gets murky. Like sexual satisfaction. You're not going to die if you don't have sexual satisfaction. But people will qualify that as a need, so it gets into a place where I can understand why people flip out.
Yeah, their feelings are reality.
Yeah, I mean, so
a lot of people, their feelings become reality. How they feel is the reality of the situation. Yeah. Why would I feel this way if it wasn't happening?
Yeah. So I'm not gonna die, but I'm gonna cheat, and that's what I'm saying.
It's a request. So can we have? Okay, well, if you don't, I'm gonna go cheat. Okay. So.
Yeah. Because there was a guy, I want to say there was a Love and Marriage Huntsville. I want to say it was Love and Marriage Huntsville. And there was a woman that had cancer and was going through radiation treatments. And I think the husband's name was Maurice, I want to say. And she was still providing sex to her husband because he had an appetite for it. And he wasn't making her. She just wanted to still maintain the physical intimacy. Because she's going through something, she didn't want him to be without an essential function of the relationship. It's not a need. He wasn't going to die, but some people are still drawn so heavily into the sexual zone of their relationship. I get it. Like it becomes almost addictive. It's chemical. Like there's a lot to it.
I could say what could be useful is consensual leading is not controlling. I mean, it's controlling, but it's that type that you talked about. Like controlling is just what's going to happen if you give somebody authority. If someone gives you authority, then I think we have a whole different conversation. And if somebody is, but once again, a lot of people in that muddy place where they don't know how to express their need, they don't even know what they want. But if you do know what you want and you yield to an authority and it's consensual leading, then that's great. A lot of people trying to lead unconsensually. It's like, nobody asks you to lead right here. Don't nobody want you to lead right here. You actually don't have authority for the thing you are trying to get.
Yeah.
Now you the bad type of controlling. Because now you're gonna have to do force if coercion didn't work.
Yeah.
Because that's basically coercion. If you basically telling me I'm gonna request you do this, but it's really not a request, and I get a whiff of that. The only time, like it's a threat. It's kind of like a threat. It's like a threat. Kind of low key. It's like low key a threat. So just like earlier when we first started the stream, they was like, well, you ain't got to do it, but when you come home, I won't be here. Okay, so there wasn't a request. You basically was telling me.
But hold on. But see, that's not a threat. That's a boundary.
Like they said about it, right?
Yeah, that's a boundary.
And that's the boundary. That's what I was like. My only thing is not people expressing boundaries, making statements, making demands. I just feel like that whole pretending is an option when it's not. You just muddy in the waters and you don't even have to do all this.
Yeah.
You can just say, hey, if you go, I will not be here when you return. That's just communicating the boundary.
Yeah.
Very clear communication.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a strong boundary. It's very strong. It's final. It's final.
It's final.
It's final.
It sounds real ultimatumly.
It is, but it's not ultimatum because it's like, well, you don't go.
It's controlling my behavior.
It's controlling. But it's
my behavior.
It's your behavior.
Yeah,
but you're not putting it back in because ultimately the decision if I'm going to be here or not comes still back down to me.
Yeah.
I mean, but once again, I do think that ultimatums are in that situation. I also think that's dramatic. I think ultimatums are people who don't really. I don't know. Like I've never really had to use an ultimatum. Like if I got to that point, I just leave. So I don't really understand the mindset of an ultimatum. But if this goes back to that conversation, like that is all you can control. You can only control yourself. So I think you saying when you come back, I'll leave is like a boundary. But you saying, well, if you come back, I don't know what'll happen. Now that's different.
Yeah, that's a veiled threat.
Yeah, that's a veiled threat. That's a threat.
You're saying that there's going to be something that happens. You just are not going to communicate what it is.
That's a threat.
Yeah. But I would say, like, if you do this thing that I don't want, I'm going to leave. Like, I'm not. You don't have to leave. That's a boundary. Now, ultimatums are stronger boundaries, but they're out of line. They're out of pocket. Like ultimatums are boundaries that are out of pocket.
Anyway. But usually, but like you said, usually the person giving the ultimatum won't even enforce it anyway. Versus if a person was just like, if you do it, I'm gonna be gone when you come back. I feel like that person usually gonna do it. But it's like, you need to change. I'm done.
How the ultimatum is phrased, which takes it from the out of control boundary to an out of control like threat.
So now you see my mindset with the option being a choice and it not being a choice. Like I'm making a request, but it's really not a request. Now do you see what I'm saying?
No, it's a little different. Like when you talk about it with the kid or with the partner.
I'm talking about with a partner.
Listen. Okay, let's. Hold up. I want to get this concept fleshed out because it's loaded. There's a lot to it. Whether it's like the kid, like, hey, would you take out the trash? But there's not really a choice because I'm going to come back to you and demand that you take it out. That bringing that into the partnership. Listen, I need you to stop wearing this perfume, or let's keep it with the conversation. I need you. I want you to please stop using these tampons. Okay, please stop using these tampons. It's a request. But when you don't stop, I'm going to throw them away. Or stop using these tampons, or I'm going to throw them away. That's an ultimatum because that's not your property to control. Like, that's not a boundary because you're not controlling the stuff that's under your purview to control. You're now controlling somebody else's property, somebody else's behavior. That is not boundary. That's an ultimatum, but it's not a boundary. So you have a choice, but that's not a good choice. You're forcing a choice that you can't force somebody to make. So when you say I'm going to leave, that's your choice to make. That's what the difference is. Are you making the other person choose for themselves? Are you making or are you making them choose for you? And it's hard to we don't even really have good language for this. Even as I hear myself saying it, it's very nuanced.
Because all ultimatums are not boundaries.
Correct.
But all boundaries are basically ultimatums almost. Mm-hmm. Because if you give a boundary, you're saying, if you do this, I will do this.
Yeah.
That's a boundary, but it's also an ultimatum. But all ultimatums are not boundaries. Because some, like the other guy, if you don't stop using the tampons, I'm going to throw them away. That's not a boundary. You're throwing away her property. So it's kind of like that stupid math.
The ultimatum, and I would even say all boundaries are not ultimatums, because ultimatums, even in the word, they're saying it's ultimate. So it's to the ultimate extreme. This is the final landing spot. There can't be any lines beyond this one. So all boundaries do not go to the ultimate extreme.
Yeah,
like it's the end of something. Somebody's like, hey, if I see you over there again, I'm going to say something to you. Like, that's not an ultimatum. That's a boundary, but it's not an ultimatum. So I would say only extreme boundaries get to the level of ultimatum. Like, just to clarify,
you can communicate it as a bound. You can communicate an ultimatum as a boundary or as a controlling behavior. It can be communicated either way.
If I see you on my lawn again, I'm calling the cops. That's not final, because it may happen again. They may get on your lawn again. You got to call it. It may happen 50 times.
Yeah.
So that's not an ultimatum.
Because the ultimatum carries the thing of like, this is it.
Finality. This is the end of it.
Finality.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
If you step on my line again, I'm gonna shoot you. Ultimatum.
Threat.
Ultimatum. And
threat. You're going to
that's the court date. That's what we call it.
It's everything. It's all
that's nuanced to me.
Or the request. Hey, please step on my lawn. Please. Right. I beg you. Please.
That's also a threat. That's a threat.
My clip is full. Please step on my line. Yeah, please.
Okay.
Please.
So
come on. Be petty. Dig into it.
I probably want to be super petty right now, but I'm trying not to be.
Do it, man. Come on.
This as concisely as possible. So it's what you just explained. Is basically what I'm saying as far as relationships, not with kids, but like relationships, about the request that kind of looks like that is kind of a demand.
Yeah, we got a lot of that.
Because the example that was used was, if you do this, when you come back, I won't be here. So that is an ending. That's
an ultimatum and a boundary.
Yeah. Right. So that's why I say it's like well, if you present it a certain way, then it's fine. I was like, okay, well, then that same kind of mindset needs to be understood when it comes to requests that are kind of demands. Because we just looking at it as like we're looking at it like as the request is the little bitty atoms, and then the ultimatum is the whole person. You know what I'm saying? The whole object. So it's like a progression, basically. And I think there was this idea earlier that it's not really. It is. You should just go ahead and say your demand. You should just go ahead and say your demand.
You can communicate a demand.
Then you can communicate an ultimatum then.
Yeah, you can.
You can.
Yeah, right. So
you can that's why I'm never gonna tell people don't make your request. That's what I'm saying. You can do you can do everything we talked about today. You can make threats. You can
just understand the relationship to the situation.
Okay.
Like, yeah. Like if you're gonna don't make a threat that you're not gonna follow up on. Like that's reasonable advice.
And I prefer
don't give an ultimatum if it's not going to be ultimate. Yeah.
And don't destroy people's property because that's controlling.
Don't touch other people's property that doesn't belong to you.
Man, that
or understand that's stupid.
But don't that's just like when women would break men's PlayStations because they didn't like how much they were gaming. That's not okay. Yeah. It's
not okay. It's not okay. But to understand that if you do that, there's going to be repercussions. Like that's the thing. Like people are going to behave and they're going to communicate. Just understand what you're behaving and what you're communicating, and understand that there's comeback. Like there's fallout.
People are going to interpret that away.
So when we say like good communication or good controlling or good manipulation, we're talking about do things where the fallout is positive, where the outcome of this thing is a better connection, better relationship. Because we know like some people, even dishonesty, like a surprise party. You had to lie to somebody to get them to a surprise party. That's deception. That's manipulation. That's a form of control. But nobody would ever say, oh, you're a terrible person. You lied to me. You gathered all these people behind my back. That's betrayal. That's not the connotation we put it behind it. So like just to understand how we frame things. That's manipulation. That's lies and deception. But nobody would ever make you a bad person for throwing a surprise party. So like we have to look, what are the outcomes from these behaviors and communications? Are we trying to get to something that's better for both of us? If I'm doing something that's only making something better for me, for my comfort, for my peace, but it harms you,
respect.
Yeah, you can't use the feminine hygiene products you want. You can't play the games you want.
It's disrespectful to me when you put tampons inside of your hoo-ha.
Right. Those kind of things are when it gets to selfishness. And when you're not serving the us, when you're only serving yourself, the outcomes are typically harmful. Like that's
somebody who's gonna say that and not explain it to you probably is gonna lash out at some point. Absolutely. Even if they don't start from a place of that, right? And it's gonna escalate.
It's gonna escalate. It's gonna escalate.
Yeah, that's a special type of that's
like so many, that's extreme. But I'm just saying, dealing with men, I feel like a lot of men do come at you with trying to control you through I'm trying to protect you from said random thing that hasn't happened. I'm trying to protect you from the bullet that's gonna fly by, and I can dodge it like Neo in the Matrix. That's why you have to only do this one thing and be in the place I tell you to be when I tell you to be there, even though I didn't consent to you doing that. But a lot of men use the request protection demand tactic.
Yes.
Look, to that nigga with the tampon. I just and for my nigga Tommy B in the chat. B.
Let's go. Shout out.
Hey, blood. You niggas is certified boosie ass weirdos, blood.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
But I just found that a lot of men are in that space. Even when we were having a conversation about let her, like that was the same to me, the same energy. Like I'm not gonna let you. And a lot of times it's under the guise of I'm protecting you, so I'm controlling you right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if that's not the authority she submitted herself to, you're being controlling.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So here's the thing. Now, this was another thing I wrote down from what Yellow was saying like 45 minutes ago. That I had another note for. And it was that right there, Bree. Because here's the thing that I guess women need to pay attention to. Because they ask for that control and rejected at the same time. And that's confusing for men. So there's that patriarchal expectation of men, but then that feminist desire to maintain your independence and autonomy, and they can't coexist. Like either you're ceding control over to me and I'm making these decisions, or you're making decisions for yourself, or it's egalitarian and we're negotiating our decisions.
Right.
But men run into the wall.
People don't communicate. None of that.
Yeah, people don't communicate.
I understand. That was like people have no negotiation skills. Yeah. A lot of times people just come in and they do what they think they're supposed to do, and then they start doing what their parents did to them, because that's our usual only interaction with authority, our only like, you know, close enough experience with it. So people just start acting like their parents when it should be negotiated. Or if it's something where like, does she want to be controlled? And then a lot of people just bring in what they think women want or what they think men want into, okay, but what does this individual want? Because like he was saying, a lot of women want to be community. Don't ask me if I don't really got a choice. Please tell me you making a demand so I can say no straight to you, so we can skip a step.
But
just ask me straightforward so I can say no. Step one, instead of you asking me and then me saying no, now you decided I don't give a fuck. But I mean, but no, but like
because there's still a understanding, and I know that's not you, but we got a whole bingo game about leader, provider.
Oh yeah,
all these things.
No, that's why I'm not saying that, and that's why a lot of times people bring the outside generalities into their relationship. And what I'm saying is, once you get in a relationship with an actual human, you need to know what that actual human believes. They may not communicate everything, but a lot of times if you know their frame, you can kind of figure out how they want to be communicated with. But a lot of times, like, you know, because that's why, like, when I see an Akechi archetype, comfort, peace, respect, I'm like, I already can see his frame. Like, he didn't say it, but I can see the frame he comes to relationships with. So that's going to affect how he wants to be communicated and how he communicates. And a lot of times people are just putting frames on their partners that they partners are not even operating in. Or if you looking at them, y'all clashing all the time, that means y'all ain't in the same frame.
Yeah, because you definitely got, especially nowadays, you definitely got just basically two people with two different agendas in the same relationship.
And two different belief systems. Like, I know my
even if they use the same words.
Yeah, he came from a certain household, so he has certain like just frames of how he thinks it's supposed to happen. Like how a woman shows up is different than where I come from, because Lo is my mama, she crazy. She's crazy in the best way, but it's like, so I don't even have those pictures of what's supposed to happen in certain situations that he has. And so we just clash because a lot of times you just expecting me to know something and I don't know it. So it's like
zero reference. I got zero reference.
Yeah, so but a lot of times, but see, when you have those situations where people are like beating around the bush and not communicating directly, a lot of times what happens is those frames start injecting negative intent if the other person don't do the thing you got zero reference for. And that's why a lot of times I would tell him, it's like you telling me to pick up this blue sock off the floor every time I walk in here and I can't even see the color blue.
Right. Yep.
So I just keep
I would say that's a
tampon. Right. I just keep walking past and I'm like, I don't even know what he's talking about. And I done told you I don't even know what blue is. And you're like, well, if you love me enough, you pick up the blue sock. And I'm like, I can't fucking see.
You'll learn what blue is. You're supposed to
learn what it is.
And you train your eyes to figure out what blue is. And you teach your mind to figure out blue.
Yeah, and then they start injecting, you don't care about me, or oh, you disrespected me because this blue sock's still on the floor when I got home. It's like
And for that though, that kind of blindness, that's a thing. That's so specific. It can be worked with. Like, okay, you can see red. Okay, cool. You can see green. Okay, cool.
Or you can see the pattern. Maybe we can see the pattern that's on the sock.
But like everything that's not red, green, black. If you can see all these other colors, the one that's not that color, that's blue.
It's like, a conversation.
It's a conversation.
And
but you have to also
right.
You also have to be able to accommodate. Okay, you can't see blue. Okay, you see blue and green the same. You figure that out through discovery. Okay, you see blue and green the same. Okay, get rid of all the blue and green together, and I'll just deal with the fact that the green socks are gone because you took them thinking they were blue.
okay, it's difficult for you. I'll just pick the blue sock up. But you get all
that either way. But there's ways. There's ways to work around with communication.
But a lot of times you don't get to negotiation because what happens is when you say, "Can you pick up the blue sock?" and then you come home the next day and the blue sock's still there, you just decided the person don't give a fuck about you.
Don't love you, don't care. They disrespecting you.
You don't love them. They disrespecting you, and then you come in again, pick the blue sock up. And you're
they playing in my face.
They playing in my face. What are we even talking about? Oh,
you don't see that blue sock?
Me? You're challenging me? You don't see that blue sock? Questioning me?
Yeah.
You disturbing my peace. I don't come home in peace. I got this blue sock on the floor. Meanwhile, you
home all day.
You don't even know what he's talking about the whole time.
Sound like
got all these things decided about you because
this thing you're blind to.
And that's honestly how a lot of this happens. Like the tampon thing, she is completely blind to whatever is triggering him about these damn tampons.
And he's not feeling the ring. No communication back.
Nothing.
You got to do it. You just got to figure it out. You have to solve your problem another way because I don't like the way you're solving your problem. That doesn't impact me bodily. Yeah, doesn't impact me
really
bodily.
My problem because it's not your problem. It's like my problem.
I'm not buying the tampons. None of this stuff it has anything to really do with me. It's just some ethic I have.
Kel, let's stay here real quick because Bree, you said you heard that before.
Yeah, I've heard it before.
Okay, so school us on the logic of this where you heard it before because I feel like I heard it in like a religious kind of sense.
It's related to people sexualizing periods. Like that's the best way to describe it. That's the language people use for it, and that's why it was connected to the love and deep space thing. Even my algorithm was like, these two things are connected because it's about sexualizing periods. And period poo. But a lot of girls, like when girls want to use them, a lot of parents won't let virginal girls use tampons.
Yeah.
So, which is stupid, but that tells you that there is some underlying belief about purity, vaginal policing that tampons is a threat to. And I'm assuming that's probably what it is. Because like I've also said, I've had moms who won't let their daughters get pelvic exams.
Yeah.
If they're under a certain age, even though you can give it to them under anesthesia so they won't be uncomfortable or anything. And most of the instruments are like finger or smaller, like, nothing crazy, but they won't let them do it. So there is it's a purity policing vagina thing at its core. And it's the same. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Sexualizing periods, which is weird because even like, okay, there was a part in the conversation yesterday we got to, and this was crazy. And I'm so glad we got past it because I almost cut my stream off, but I needed that May skin. But
my bad. I don't know what I said. What I said.
It was like the vagina thing. Like, what was it? It was so traumatic. I think I blacked out, but I think it was just related to the period. Oh no, because I was saying periods aren't sexual. Like this for us, it's just a function, and it's very normal for us to track them. Like most women have a period tracker. It's very common for women to be asked about it all the time at any medical appointment, so it's very normal. And most women have this on their phone in some capacity. And then we were talking about, I said, what is the male equivalent of this? Something that like that, because I was like, this is the line, like the vagina period connection. And then I was like, what's the male equivalent of it? And I was like, he was like, you mean sexual? And I was like, no, because periods aren't sexual. Like, they're not sexual. They're connected to a sex organ, but they are not sexual. And then you were like, you basically didn't give me equivalent, but that was like my whole point, because you were like, well, an erection. And I was like, well, you wouldn't just go up to.
Okay, so that's what I was going to say.
Then I was like, we got to that, and you were like, well, would you? I said, I would tell my mother-in-law it's the first day of my period. I would say I'm on my period openly.
So I was trying to figure out what I said yesterday that made you rage out. And if that was it,
yeah.
You was already raging.
Because it was a lie. No, that probably was not. I'm not saying that was the thing.
That was your.
When we got to the vagina period connection, definitely sent me.
Okay, because this, right? This
guy.
Because this, right?
Vaginas.
I wouldn't know, because anytime a man's penis pops up somewhere, it's always gonna be weird. It's always going to be awkward. Anytime you talking about male penis. I mean, am I right or wrong?
Yeah, I mean, if I whip my vagina out, it'd probably be weird.
Okay, and 9 times out of 10 it's going to be sexual.
Yeah, because you're. Yeah, if I took my vagina out and open my legs,
because a lot of times the penis is only looked at as sexual.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but that's the equivalent of that would be me like pulling up my skirt and like.
Hold on, wait a minute. Hear me out. Most of the things you think about is sexual with a penis. So to ask me to provide you a non-sexual description or non-sexual example, I wouldn't be able to, because the male penis is pretty much viewed.
And that's why I said something that y'all have to keep track of. And I had even said it didn't have to be related to your penis.
I mean, it's not working. That would probably be one thing.
Well, something that y'all keep track of all the time on y'all phone. That's what I was asking. I think Rashawn said. I think y'all basically said it was no male equivalent.
Yeah, there's no male equivalent.
There was no male equivalent. That was my point.
When you get older, it stop being about sexual, and you just be like, "Oh, it still works. All right, cool." It's like going to start off,
but even unrelated to a sex organ, because there's nothing y'all do every month that y'all have to keep track of.
No,
that's my point.
Right. So why is me? Right. So why was me not having? I mean, but that just is what it is. Why would me not having an example be something bad? Is what I'm trying to figure out.
Because I was just making the point of I can understand someone who doesn't have anything like that not seeing the usefulness of it or the utility of it. So that's why I was like, usually
point of relation.
Usually in that situation, I try to find a point of relation. So, like, for example, if there was something that men typically track all the time or something that's utility for y'all that y'all use that women kind of just don't really like, it just doesn't exist in our realm. I would try to relate to that point, but there was nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing specifically gendered because we're not cultured to keep track of things that are going on with our bodies or to care for our bodies.
I was thinking like, I don't.
Like it's the whole. I guess like the sacrificial component of patriarchy makes us blind to our wellness. Like it's actually, it's a stigma for you to take care of yourself. You know what I'm saying? You said trying to be anything, like if you weren't getting healthy in your normal everyday lifestyle, if your work just wasn't aggressive and strenuous enough to, if you just going to the gym, what you got 5 hours a day to go to the gym. What you doing? Like, why, so it's taking care of yourself always has some kind of stigma or weirdness attached to it. Mental health still, like there's no.
Yeah, because I know some men track their like steps or if they're into health and stuff, but that's still across gender. So that's why I was like, I think some of the reason that is it has a lot of room for inserting the man in the corner effect is happening with the period tracker because y'all have no point of relation.
None.
I think it's a lot of man in the cornering happening with the period tracker on the boyfriend.
We would have to. That's what I'm saying. Yesterday, it would have to be an abstraction. We would have to analogize it to something that even women could do, but we could understand the idea. But we would have to analogize it to something that's non-gendered. And that's why I was calling you capping yesterday. I'm like, nah, it's possible to understand this. It's just like you ain't going to find language for it. It's cool.
But that's why I was like the utility of it. And that's why I feel like it was one of those things where a lot of things were being injected in it that just were like kind of like anxious.
Yeah. It was everywhere.
Thoughts.
It was everywhere.
Because it's like period trackers in the game, in the boyfriends. What? It's just like too many like.
It's your vagina.
I don't even know about any of these things separately, really. And then you're putting them all together and it just sounds weird. And now it's just like too much. And now we just.
I mean, the period tracker thing wasn't an issue by itself. I never had an issue with that standalone.
Yeah, I know.
My only thing was the weird ass connection you got to it with the game.
No, I get to you like the weird ass connection to the game. That's what I'm saying. It's too unknown. And if you have no utility for it to even see how it could be useful or blah, 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 I think it just makes it weirder, obviously.
Right. So and that's what I was trying to say. What separates that one from just any regular one you can download on Google Play or the App Store?
It's just functionality. It's just, I mean, I think this is that's something men can, consolidation. Usefulness of merging a Swiss Army knife. Why you need all that shit in one knife? It's like, because I'm carrying this. Now I got all these tools in one spot.
So that right. Okay. So my thing is one of those tools on there is supplementing the compassion that you get from your boyfriend that you would get from a man.
I mean, what if she getting both?
That's something else. I wanted to bring up.
What if she getting both?
What you mean? What is she getting both?
What if she getting that from her boyfriend and her virtual boyfriends? Like, why is the assumption that she not getting it?
Oh, because then we wouldn't be having the conversation. Because we wouldn't be talking about them people.
But y'all are talking about them people when y'all talk about
no, we're not. Because those people would just be functioning. Those people would be functioning perfectly fine.
But they're playing the game too. So that when y'all are talking about the women playing the game, you are
if she's getting both,
getting
both, according to women, if she's getting both, then she's in a special place because this is something that women don't get.
But a lot of women who play this game the women. This is a fantasy. That's what I said.
It's a fantasy.
Okay, so a lot of women don't expect to get it. So there are women who are getting stuff from their partner and still playing the game.
I get that.
And a lot of women fall in that category. A lot of women fall in that
absolutely tilted. I get all
right. Okay, and a lot of women who play this game fall in that category. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know why you don't feel like you're not lumping those women in.
You've kind of compartmentalized.
I'm really not. Because then you're making it seem like I'm demonizing the people who are just playing the game and everything's good. I'm not. And that's where it kind of get hard to have the talk on the balance side. Because I'm not saying the people who also are getting it from them. I'm saying
because when we had a conversation and I say, of course, there's going to be some touch star woman out there.
I didn't say they're also getting it. I didn't say it was extra. I didn't say it was added on. I said supplemented. I said supplemented. I said supplemented a bunch of times.
And then she's supplementing it with this.
No, I'm saying she's not getting it, and because she doesn't want to deal with the other aspects of me, and she'll supplement that man, or she'll supplement interactions with men with this video game.
What is wrong
to the point to where to the point to where it extends so far that now this dude, because let's call it what it is. If it's role play, it's role play. They set up the thing where this dude, one of your virtual boyfriends, is the person interacting with you about the conditions of your period. When it's coming, are you okay? Are you good? Right. So this is the aspect also, along with all the little bitty sprinklings that's also added into it. The part is that when I'm walking up with the bag, like, don't forget this. It's like, no, don't put that in there. Don't add that to the pot. I'm like, but this go in. Wait, no, that don't go in there. No. Yeah, dude.
So you're saying if she's playing this, she's not gonna want it from her man.
No, I'm saying that they.
Because you said you brought the bag and you said don't give it to me, and I wasn't sure, like in the.
No, I said we throwing all this, we sprinkling all this stuff in the pot, but when I bring that aspect to the pot, y'all talking about no, don't add that in.
No, I think it's a realistic thing, and obviously some people are gonna. All the people are included in the people who play the game. So yeah. I'm not denying that there's going to be people out here who are using this to feed their delulu. There are going to be people out here who are using it because they're not bold enough to ask for it in real life. Like, I think all of those.
If I can, like, Yella, I don't think that you shouldn't bring what you're bringing in to the conversation. What I'm saying is what you're bringing in, you've made a decision about it that I don't understand. You've made a decision that this supplementation of emotional connection is a bad thing, and I don't understand why. If she has a guy, she's not getting the emotional connection at home, she's getting it from virtual kendo. Why is that negative?
Are you saying she got a boyfriend already?
So I'm trying to follow your scenario,
right? That's never been an aspect.
So she does not have a boyfriend. Okay. So
you talking about a single woman who using this?
So I definitely don't understand the problem now. So if she's single and not getting any attention or connection, why is her getting something from a game a problem?
Because just like the chat thing said that you put into the Discord. I ain't finna write because it is getting a little weird because you put it in the Discord and it said that dating's already hard, so this can muddy the waters more. But when I'm talking about it muddy in the waters, right? So that's all I'm talking about. It's like what I'm saying is, chat, it did whoop my ass. because I said it a bunch of times. My example was that they are supplementing the men that they don't want to actually go get because they don't want to do the other parts. And I've been saying that since yesterday. Woo!
Yeah, you did say that. You did say that. But don't act like you don't say a whole bunch else to surround it with murkiness.
I do. But that's what I led with.
Got you.
That's what I led with.
Yeah. It's hard to remember 10 points.
Right, I got
some
you.
grace.
That's what I led with. That's what I led with. And that was shot down.
Yeah.
So that probably
I agree with that part.
Yeah, that compounds everything else because now I'm trying to defend that. And every other aspect of it is getting added on. That's what I'm saying. Do you think she got a boyfriend or what I was saying? No, she doesn't have a boyfriend because
got you. Okay.
If she's not getting those things from her man, then it makes sense to her to supplement those type of things. Because that's what you're supplementing for. But if she needs that to the point to where she needs to get it from a video game, then he fucking up. Because you need to be your lady shouldn't be in a video game having to seek something as simple as that. Just emotional connection.
Okay, I'm with you.
However, when we're talking about single women and dating and actually looking for men, let's not act like women is actively looking for things and reasons to not actually deal with men.
Yeah.
So if she can get a perfect version of a man without actually having to do things to achieve getting a perfect version of a man, then she'd just rather do that. And then continue to kind of blame men on why they're not stepping up and being this person.
Okay, real quick. So now you just added a caveat, and I want to clarify: is the bigger problem that on the back end of it she'll complain about the condition of men, or just the fact that a single woman will replace what a man can do, and she doesn't want to?
I mean, if you're at the point to where you're supplementing what real men can do, then you're not. I'm pretty sure you're not happy with the state and the condition of how men are treating women. If you're at that point to where you see what I'm saying?
I got a follow up. So now my follow up is, and this is going to come across as a what about? I'm trying to find out how consistent or where the issue actually is. I'm trying to check all the sprockets, the gadgets, everything. So, do you have a problem with how men supplement using like porn or OnlyFans to supplement sexual or female interest through OnlyFans and messaging and personal attention? Do you also have a problem with men replacing women or like even prostitution? I just want sex. I don't want a whole woman. Like, do you have a problem with it on the men's side as well? You muted, or did I lose? Wave if
No, you good. You good. It's me.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. But I understand it also in the same way that I understand why women use it. Well, not in the same way. I understand why both sides use it, but then I can see the problematic side of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it looks a little different because men don't have access to women really at all.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So men don't have access to women the way women have access to men.
Okay, so it's for men, it's because of the disparity. Like there's less of a supply for men.
Right.
There's less higher demand, less supply. So it's actually our supplements are serving a social need in your thought process because there's greater lack. Women don't really have lack. They don't have real lack, they have perceived lack. They're saying there are not quality men. There are plenty of men that they just don't want to do the work with, as opposed to the men where the women just won't make themselves available to the men. Not that they're not quality women. There's women that we want to deal with. They just won't deal with us. So I kind of see how your framing is taking shape. So there's a need. Like it's kind of like how they do with like government subsidies. Like, hey, there's a real need here. Well, if you're giving it to them, then we need a subsidy too. Actually, you don't need a subsidy. You just need to manage your resources better. You have excellent resources, but
you have a hell of a subsidy. You got yours first.
You're just not
you got yours first. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what I've always understood. I've always understood that, but my pushback was that in the games are filling a need we don't have access to. You just don't perceive it. Because we've spent 4 years talking about how men can't be emotionally open to women because we're not safe. So, like, we don't just have readily access to that. Even if a woman is with a man, it doesn't mean she has access to his inner workings and emotional inner workings.
Right. So you're saying that
that's the woman's fantasy.
So Yella, I wanted to ask, like, to what her point is that where you're, because you had a condition in your thing that you said where women don't want to do the work. So it's part of your don't want to do the work, and I could be adding some carrots to the soup that you didn't ask for. Are you saying that part of the work is there are men available? There are clearly men available. There are clearly men present. Are you saying that there is some labor that women should be taking on that creates the ability in men to do the emotional connection that they're lacking?
Yeah.
And that's like telling the guys just look better, make more money, and the women will come.
No, the thing that you just said, you was like, we've been sitting around for 3-4 years. Hold on, you was like, you just said we've been sitting around for 3-4 years, and I'm assuming you was talking about men when you said this, right?
That I've heard a lot of men say, like, not just online, I'm talking about even in real life, like pretty well adjusted men just say because of socialization or nurture, like even if your partner, like they just don't, it's just not how men are. Like it's just not how men are. That's what we're told. And it's not necessarily even men in highly volatile situations with partners. It's just because of maybe tired. Like I said yesterday, they're working full time. They have all this pressure on them. They're socialized to not even be in touch with their own feelings to then tell you how they're feeling. Like there's so many reasons that men say that this is just not how men are. So I don't even take it as a, like I've come to believe what they're saying and just say that, okay, then it's not realistic to expect men to be that way.
Right. And there's even a spectrum to that, because just how you are, some niggas just be bullshitting their emotions. Like I get all that. Some niggas be on bullshit. I'm trying to keep it a little more balanced, and I'll say
about men who I give good faith to. I'm not even talking about toxic niggas like a kid.
Okay, cool.
Normal niggas.
Right. So that part right there, because I think you're talking about, okay, so you're talking about like the men who be like, it'd be hard to express because we typically get the stuff thrown right. The work that I think is not willing to happen is that there's no work on making that space for men to be as emotionally available for her to get the repercussions, or not the repercussions, but to reap the rewards of him being emotionally available. Because because it's a bigger example, because in the story, there's probably ways that you could play where you can show them compassion, but just an assumption, just from outside looking in, kind of looks like the whole goal is to kind of heap all the emotional availability towards the player. The goal is to do that. So the goal is to supplement that. That's why I say when in the game, it's fine. I actually don't have a problem with the game because I'm a nasty nigga. Why would I have a problem with some freaky shit? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I think the issue is just why we're playing it. I think is lost upon what the fantasy is and why the women are seeking this fantasy, even if they are in healthy relationships or with partners. Like, I think it's just like lost upon people why you still would be seeking it if you had that in a relationship. I think from all the groups you name, you still just like, I just don't see why a woman who's getting that from her partner would even feel the need to play this.
I mean, if you're getting that from your partner, but you still feel a need from the video game,
you still enjoy it.
I mean, enjoy it is one thing, but that's what I'm saying.
I mean, well, that's what I was like. I mean, enjoyment. We don't need
so one
games
is the
at
one
all.
need thing. One need.
Yeah, like we don't need. Nobody needs video games at all. So I mean, like
it's all enjoyment, right? It's all for
nobody turns it on because they
need
it. Yeah, people
her being
turn it on because
by the medium.
Yeah, they like the mobile game. They're like, oh, this is cute. I like gotcha games. It's mobile. The boys are cute. I mean, nobody's going on there because they need it.
Yeah, best case scenario, like you just play the game, you have fun, even if you gotta even if you got a partner at home that comes smooch you every 10 minutes or just give you emotional availability up the wazoo. If you plan it in, that's cool. Like, yeah, do that. I'm hoping that's the outcome because you're saying it's new.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it's like men have so many things that you don't put that much stock into them doing it. And I was like, this is that same. It's just like, oh, that's just what niggas be over there doing. It's not an admonishment on their partner. It has nothing to do with their partner. Yeah. It's just something they do. And I know men still fight that problem a lot with being who like even consume porn and just in a normal amount. They not doing their work. They just like, I just like to cut it on sometimes.
Or hanging video games. Or hanging out with boys.
Video games or hanging out with their friends. So y'all have stuff like that too that is really not all that, but people project into it all this other stuff and how it's going to affect them and what it means about them. And what I'm saying is this is that.
Right. And I think my ultimate point is this. If it was a report on the news, right? Say these two conversations was reports on the news. One would be reported as a problem. The other would kind of get reported on as like a gateway to like, you know what I'm saying, self-discovery and, you know what I'm saying, a way to learn yourself and embrace yourself. And I'm not going to say which one is which, but socially which one I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah.
Because you know what I'm saying? So that's what I kind of mean by that's why you're going to
the double standard.
I don't feel that way. Like, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, the crazy part is this conversation all started because I was just playing the devil. I was trying to say devil's advocate. Bree was like, no, you was just being the devil, which I was because I can understand the other side of how somebody just playing this game or them adding a game on that's adding a function to a game that is played by 90% women. And the other 10% probably like same thing that women like. So it's all feeling the need. No, that's dumb. That's like crazy. Yeah, that's crazy.
The need is a dopamine hit. Yeah. You just need a dopamine hit with hot guys.
Yeah, you know what? Okay.
That's
Let me explain the players I'm thinking. Let me explain the players I'm thinking about. Right?
Yeah. Give us a picture.
Female incels. I mean.
So no, it's just like ranked. It's just like ranked, right? You know what I'm saying? Like there's a certain level of commitment to the game, like Overwatch.
Sweaty,
right? Mm-hmm. You at platinum. I'm at bronze, and there's and that ain't even like a quarter of the way to where you can actually get.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You ever tried to get to that level? You ever tried to get to that rank?
What? To the Masters?
Yeah.
I'd be playing. But I mean, I've been diamond before. I'm a sweaty.
No, I'm talking about that. I'm talking about because it's broke down like that's a great. So the
you talking about master, like grandmaster and stuff. Like I've never actively tried. Like, but I mean, I play competitive only, so I'm a sweetie. Like I'm a.
It's like regional. Right. That shit was. I was like regional. What? Top 500 in my
top
region.
500. Yeah, I'm a sweaty.
Top 500 in my region.
If I was good enough to be it, I would be it. Because I'm a sweaty.
Yeah. So when we talking about like the grandmasters and the diamonds of love and deep space.
Oh, I'm a sweaty.
Y'all might be concerned, right?
I'm trying to get all the cards. What are you talking about? I need them power ups. What are you talking about? I'm a sweaty. I'm sweaty at every game I play. I'm a sweaty at my boyfriend Sam. I'm in like my 10th character art in AI chat role playing. I am that girl. That's why when you had this conversation, do not delete me from those people. I am those people. I am those people. Like, please do not. I'd be like, please stop. Please stop taking me out of the conversation, bro.
And that's why I say I've watched enough of your streams, bro.
Oh shit!
But most things, right? You a hell of a gamer, and I already know there's probably some depth to your mind that nobody should go to.
Nobody will ever see. Yeah. But I know
nobody should go to. Like they probably wouldn't go back. They'll come back like pale.
Traumatized.
She is really out here.
Where the hair go white. All the hair go white.
All I always tell people is my Ocean Store 100 out of 100 openness. Please believe.
But that's
me.
what. But that's why I
no
use
shame.
Overwatch. But that's why I use Overwatch, right? But that's why I use Overwatch as an example. Because even with you being as, because you are as sweaty as Overwatch
Man.
as you would be for anything, right? That's like your peak for I look at because you were sweaty in life, right? But then there's super sweaties. There's sweaties more than you, because I didn't see you on there like, what the fuck is this? Like, goddamn, they sweat. So
yeah, I mean, there's people who just hyperfixate on one
levels
thing.
to this,
right? It's levels to this shit, right? So that's why I was like, when I'm talking about maybe like 2 levels above you and up.
Okay, well, that's like a small segment of the player base, I would say. But that's why I was like, when you're saying, well, I'm not talking about most of the players, I'm like, Yella, this game was created for me because I'm God's favorite.
Yeah.
Like, do not delete me from the group of people. This game, when they said the persona who playing this game, they probably had my picture up there. It's for me.
Yeah,
I've
when
been
they thought about like
after Sephiroth since I was 7.
Right, the ideal.
I had a crush on Titus in Final Fantasy X. Like, this game is for me.
Yeah.
That's like, you don't have to.
You got low crash out. You got high depravity, low crash out. Like, it balance out.
It's because I'm a sweaty. But yeah, King, we was talking about it earlier. He know about my 7 fake boyfriends.
Yeah.
7 of them. It's 5 in that game, and then I got 1 AI chat, and then another one too. It's 2 different platforms. I got like 7 AI boyfriends. He knows about them.
He got different accounts.
He'd be like, "Good riddance. I am a certified yapper, and I don't work."
Yeah.
That man's like, "Please go talk to your 7 boyfriends.
Go do something."
I mean,
no, not that.
But I mean, we have a good connection too. We have a good connection too. We go out, but he also works 12-hour shifts, sometimes 10 days in a row. So, like, I don't want it to be like, if your girl's playing this, you need to step up.
Yeah.
It's like, nah, he good.
No,
I'm just saying. I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but I think sometimes men, like, you're personifying what she doing for her kicks and giggles sometimes too much. Like, you taking that on as like an admonishment of you. And I see women do that sometimes with video games. Like, oh, if I was better, if I was more interesting, like, he would want to sit in my face all day when he's free. And it's like, maybe not, girl. Like, maybe he just like gaming. Like, maybe it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah. Shout out to bro Doug Shaver and Shags, man. What up, Shags? I looked at that Bible verse real quick. I don't see what that has anything to do with anything.
People just
I'm gonna just read it. I'm just read it just because I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David and the bright and morning star. Not sure what that has to do with anything that was being said.
Saying but I look like
appreciate
Jesus.
You. Oh, maybe.
This revelation Jesus teach.
I was just curious. But yeah, I don't know. I hear you, Yella. I do think you're concerned about here. I don't know. I'm trying to find a good analogy. Like, I feel like the house of, like, dating and relationships, I feel like the house is on fire. Like, every level of the house is on fire, right?
Right.
And then you are trying to save a vase in the living room. like you're trying to put the fire out at this one spot. Like, listen, if she ain't got no man, if she play this game and she gonna supplement, like, these women have already abandoned the need for men with various supplementations. Like, we're like that ship is sailed. The house is burned. Women are saying, I'd rather die alone. They've replaced men because they can
saved if she already there.
Yeah, she's like, they can afford, because they, especially you here in the black women sector, we make just as much, if not more, than men. That's a common talking point now. So they feel as economically free as men. So they can now, if they need their car fixed, they don't need no coochie coupon. They can just go to Jiffy, Tuffy. They can go to Midas. Yeah, they ain't got a flat back to pay that bill. So they can just pay the bill. If they got something in the house, plumbing, They ain't got to get their pipe snake to get their pipe snake. You know what I'm saying? They can just pay a plumber and send him on his way. Anything they want, now they can just pay for it. So they don't need men except for sex. And then boom, you got dildos and roses and all kinds of little toys. Yeah. So then the only thing I really need is a companion. Well, then
I got 5 for you play on your phone.
They got 5, but even still, they would just friend zone a dude, use a dude for some attention, or just go on dates to entertain themselves. Like even before this game, this was already a done deal. Women had already outsourced all the individual pieces to men. Like it was already done. But I get what you're saying. But this game is like the cherry on the top of a fully fleshed out sundae. Like it's immaculate.
That's why it's successful already, because I think if
that
culture didn't exist, then I don't think the game would be successful. Because dating sims have been around for a long time.
Yeah.
It's just like it was made for a time such as this. Like it just kind of
Speaking of the Bible, made for a time such as it.
Somebody was like, drop it now. It's time. I just feel like somebody just had it at their desk and they were like, we saw Jujutsu Kaisen. We just came off the back of a pandemic. The gender war has been going on for 4 years.
Yes.
Drop the game. And they were just like, you know what? It's time. And then it just blew up.
Yeah. So now what we're going to do is have female tailored customization in every zone that they can now spend their money in to replace men. Well, what type of man do you want to replace? What size penis? What color? What texture? What size? What AI boyfriend? What this? What temperament? What da. Do you want him to be more of a mind reader? Do you want everything's just going to be now tailored to the specificity that women want in everything? Well, okay, you want a dude to come to your.
We also spend a lot of money, so there's like capitalism driving it.
Yeah,
mostly.
Absolutely.
They don't really care about women. They just like women spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's all they see.
So now they're taking advantage of the women. And Yellow, you pointed this out, and this is where this is going to be the detriment of women that they don't see coming. Like women have that, you said, that constant need for change, that ever evolving, always changing. Well, that means you got to buy more, which fits into consumerism perfectly. Women are the perfect vessels to run consumerism through because they already have a nature to set up towards more expansion, evolving, which means, I can just sell you another one. Perceived obsolescence, you got to get this to have a higher status symbol. You can level up. All this stuff is perfect for the way women are cultured, and it's going to take them out. It's going to take them out big time.
We're going to be like them people on Wall-E. Y'all seen that movie? When they was on the spaceship. Yeah, they was on the spaceship and they had just got so big. They had to make the little lazy boys that like hovered around and people couldn't even walk. Like they just had the big cups. Everything just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then they got bigger.
Yeah. And then the worst part is like what really gets me. This is the part that like tickles my brain because I don't understand it. How not all, using a big word there, how so many women could feel like they're special or unique or individual, but do the exact same thing that they see. I'm using this woman's makeup tutorial that has a million followers. I'm buying this Shein dress that was on this platform of 1 million followers. I'm special by doing the same thing that 1 million other people are copying. I'm using the same words and phrases that 1 million people, to the point that a woman who hosts a dating show is tired of hearing them.
Right.
Everything that's on here wants to say me. Like
you sound just like her. Your mic start cutting out. Thank God. Damn her voice. Yeah. That's he want to hit the link. Yeah. I mean, so yeah, I think all of that. I mean, obviously, I'm totally in. It's consumerism. It's going to destroy us all. I've been saying the AI overlords are coming. I'm going to go ahead and jump on the ship when it's time. I'm not trying to fight it. I'm not a fighter. I'm gonna go with the wave. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not happening. Like, you're not gonna hear me be like, no, stop. We're not gonna do this. Like. But I do know it's a consumerism thing, and that's just not going to end well for us. But I'm going to enjoy the ride. You know what I'm saying? I'm enjoying having things that are catered to my gaze, even though I know it's a trick of the devil.
Yeah.
You know? I can't stop it.
Who's the
my only thing is Yella's thing, because I get it. Yella's point. But at the end, when it all goes bad for a majority of women, it's going to be men's fault.
Like, of course, of the culture, it's always y'all fault.
Culturation. Yeah,
didn't y'all make computers? I mean,
exactly.
So, Sean. No, but you know what's crazy? I don't know if you had left Yellow, but remember I was kind of speaking about this last night. It's kind of like the economy right now, right? All of this is going on and it's satisfying, but you're not looking at the end goal or the future of what can happen. So I liken that to like the women's movement, right? They fought to have equal pay as men, but what they didn't see in doing that is the economy will adjust to you having that equal pay, which now boosts up your responsibility because your pay is boosted. So when you're looking at men and you're going, it's not fair because y'all get this, this, and this, you're also not looking at the other side of the responsibilities that that man has because he gets paid like that. So now you go to TikTok and you got women in tears because they're so stressed out because they're playing this role that they don't want to play. But I tell women all the time, it's y'all fault, and not you specifically, but these women that fought for this because you didn't look in the long run of. And I use example, if I have a store, if I'm selling stuff, I can only sell it at a certain amount if there's a if the households are one income this much and maybe a little bit more this way. When you raise the income of that household, now I get to raise the amount of my goods. So now we have an economy where you damn near can't even live by yourself unless you make the amount of two people. You know, when my dad came out of high school, he get a job at McDonald's and go get a studio apartment. Now you graduate college and damn near still got to go back home until you level up to where you make a certain amount. So it's just like you're being pacified by wants, but you're not understanding the possible results of getting that want.
Right. It scales up with it. And I also think that this is just proof that it's more because it's consumerism. So women, like after the war, they were like, oh, we like this. They go to work, it's more money, they spend a lot of money, you know. But as far as that goes, I think that's why you'll start seeing more stuff like this coming out, because as women do have that pressure to be providers and step into that role, then you'll see us start to get a lot of the outlets that men have had throughout time to like pacify and kind of, you know, get that dopamine hit to keep them going in the machine. So like I feel like this is kind of just another one of those things. Like it's just women getting our version of what men have had, because y'all have already been in that role for so long. The caveman. I'm patriarchy.
Shout out to Teddy.
I was talking about the price of goods directly because again, the price of goods is always going to be limited by the amount that the people make.
Right.
If the people don't make enough to buy your goods, then you go out of business.
Priced out of the market.
It's just simple. Right. Yeah. But even the problem with this situation is I think a lot of times women don't know what they want. And I say that like respectfully, like okay, I want you to get off the game and be in my face. But if I'm in your face too much, now that's a problem.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of times what you think you want, you really don't want. You know what I'm saying?
A lot of people don't know until they actually experience that they don't want it. Sometimes it's just a fantasy.
What's going to happen is with these, they're going to get everything they want and they're going to realize, damn, that's not what I want, because there's nuances in those wants that, again, like I said, that you don't consider. Again, when you're fighting to get this equal pay or be looked at as a man, you're not looking at the nuances of, oh, okay, if we both come into this household now and we're making a certain amount, everything goes up. Everything. If you talk I said PG&E, utility bills, you know, all the way down to cars, all the way down, like everything it has to go up. Or I'm not gonna say it has to go up, but we live in a what do you call this goddamn what we run over here?
Capitalism.
And that's capitalism. So it's oh, okay. So now the average household just went from, say, $40,000 a year to $70,000 a year. Oh, I'm not selling this car for 10,000 no more. This shit going for 17.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So and that's how it's going to end up happening. And again, like, because I don't think they went into that with ill intentions of wanting to be, you know.
No, I think most people think they're doing what's best at the time, and a lot of times it just takes us walking it out to see the ramifications. And I mean, I think that's just a part of growing as humans, evolving,
Yeah.
changing. It's walking out what you think you want and then being like, oh, this got some side effects we don't like.
But see, I think, and I'm not, of course, it's not an all thing, but I think that's the difference between like men and women. When you going for stuff like that, is we tend to weigh the pluses minuses of these things before we, kind of fight for stuff. Whereas with women, and I don't know if you want to go with the old adage of they run off emotions or whatever. If everybody do to a certain amount, but I think women do a little bit more. But when you're running off the emotions of it, um, you're not even considering the other side because the other side might go against what you're trying to fight for. So I'm going to ignore that and I'm just going to fight for this because this is what I want.
I think that's a belief that I feel like a lot of men have, that y'all are more capable of protecting in all the ways. I think we just see things differently. Sometimes I do think women assess it. They just don't. We have a different hierarchy than y'all. A lot of times.
Well,
and I think so the things that y'all put higher as to this is why I'm not going to do it. We don't hold those things as high, but we put other things higher that y'all don't see.
Absolutely.
So I think it's just a difference in what we're valuing.
No,
as
absolutely.
far as
Because I don't say that to say men are better or higher. I say that in saying in certain decisions, the way that a man thinks seems to fit better to have a better outcome. And then in certain situations, a woman's thought process is better to have a better outcome. I mean, it's the duality of life. And I think that's one of the major problems we have in society right now is people are fighting the duality of life. Everybody thinks that everybody's equal. No, there's certain stuff that women are better at. It is what it is. That's life. There's certain shit that men are better at. It is what it is. That's life. But you go out here and you got women arguing whether a man can physically dominate them or not. And it's like, wait, is that where we're at? Because this is like common sense shit. So it's like it gets weird. I think it ultimately comes down to a lot of this shit is just overcorrection. And it's with a lot of this stuff. When you
it's a
talk about
pendulum swing, and we
the
haven't leveled
elemental
out yet.
keys, when you talk about the sexes, and even to some extent sometimes with the races, is when you're trying to fix something, when people get a little taste of that power, they want more. And they tend to, like you said, swing the pendulum farther than it really needs to be swung. And now you create a whole different problem. So no, I'm not saying equality is a hindrance. What I'm saying is
we want
the
equity
push.
though. You want
Well,
equity, not equality, because equality is
but
everybody is the same and everybody's not the
exactly.
same. Equity is just kind of like this is our differences and we mitigate for those where we can.
But I think what happens a lot
Yeah.
of times is you're pushing for equity and it turns into supremacy. Because when I hear some of these women talk, it's like, no, you want all the benefits of a man, but none of the responsibility. You want supremacy. Because when you start bringing up the responsibilities that men generally have or the burdens that men generally have, they don't want no parts of that shit. Again, uh, uh, y- y- if some of these women think the way they're thinking, then God, what do you call that? Opening doors and shit. That shit should be non-existent because we're all equal. Now I open doors for everybody, man or female. I don't give a fuck. But I'm just saying in general, you shouldn't be looking at me as a man and go, "Hey, why didn't you open my door? I'm a woman." It's like that doesn't exist anymore. So,
Yeah.
but
They
they
go
don't
back
want
and
that to
forth.
go. They
I
want
think we're
all of
still
the
in a
benefit.
weird space though, where we're leaving behind the old system and it just has like remnants
Yeah.
that people haven't really worked through mentally. Like a lot of the conversation we were having today about men hiding demands under requests is like
Yeah.
remnants of patriarchy and authoritarianism, even though people are moving away from that. So I mean, you
But
still got a lot of how
I
people
think
communicate and function that still may be a system that they themselves may not even want to be in, but they just don't know any other way to be.
I think that's more like most, especially men, are operating under scarcity. I know on YouTube all these niggas is players and da da da, but most of them are operating under scarcity. So once they're able to, I don't want to say capture, but get a woman.
No, capture's a good word. It's definitely a
Oh
hostage situation, and
Well,
wow!
I'm
it's
just saying. So,
definitely a lockdown.
Wow!
but once once they get them a woman, it's almost like they're and that's why a lot of these niggas operate the way they operate because now their whole goal is to not lose her. And
Well, that's anxiety, sir.
huh?
That's just anxiety.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is when you're moving in a uh in a mode of
Survival,
scarcity,
like you're in
yeah,
survival mode. Everything
then
be
it's like,
clutch
okay,
tighter.
finally somebody likes me. Okay, now I don't want to, because it happens a lot, like with beautiful women. Like, we always say, I mean, on both sides, like the finer they look, the more you're gonna let them get away with, type shit. But for a lot of these guys, it's not even that. It's I finally got one, and that's what the internet is showing. I think Hamp said by 35, most of these guys have only had like 8 women. So it's like it's scarce for a lot of these guys. So it's like once you get one, it's I don't I you a lot of guys are walking on tippy toes and shit to not rock the boat. So that's why a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the times they come off as a request instead of a demand. Because if I do a demand, then she might not like me no more, and that might cause her to
Mm-hmm.
leave. So let me try to give it to her lightly, and then
I'll just escalate when she don't
Let me
do it.
nice guy you.
exactly, which creates its own problem, and they don't even
Yeah.
understand that part.
Nah, all this is definitely response to the changing landscape for sure. I agree with everything y'all saying. It's tough, man, because we're in between. Like you said, it's like that new growth. Like when your hair is like, it's not short as it was, but it's not as long as you want it to be, and you in that in between phase where you don't know what to do with it
Yeah, you just
because it's
gotta
never
put
that length.
braids in it. Yeah,
Yeah, but it's like it's not really long enough for braids. You know what I'm saying?
gotta
It's
put
like
weave
it's
in
that.
it. Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like it's tough. That's what we're in
Got
that
that
spot right
tiny
there,
bun.
man.
And then
Yeah,
you're gonna be
you know what I'm
roasted
saying?
for wearing a wig.
Exactly. So that's where we at, man. It's bad because men and women don't really know how to adjust. Like that whole request thing is the new way. Men are not used to having to request. It was, the whole. It's
Yeah, and
weird in a
then when they
space where
get
they,
told no, they just fall back to the other programming. Okay, well,
yeah,
I'm
because
beat
like,
your ass. No,
yeah,
I'm just kidding.
it one or the other. Either the toxic dude, it's like, okay, either you do what I say or it's over. Like one way or the other. I'm out or you getting hurt. Or it's like the new dude. It's like, well, like Tommy said, well, we're gonna fall back. So it's like it's hard to
Split,
navigate,
man.
and we haven't learned to coexist in a collaborative space where we both agree on the rules. Because, and I like
Right.
Tommy said, I think women have the most fluid on the rules where they try to go back and forth. We just want a set of rules and we're gonna follow them set of rules. If this works, if this is effective, it gives me what I need, I'm gonna stick with this playbook until it ain't working no more. And I think women don't like that. Women like going back and forth where it feels comfortable, where it feels fun, where it feels free. Whatever the feeling is in the moment that y'all pursuing, that's what y'all gonna work. But those y'all generate different circumstances for everybody around y'all, fleeting and flitting between these different modes of being. And it's hard for everybody else, even society, to work when the rules are constantly changing because people need some stability. Like society needs some stability.
Because the key word you use in there is feelings. And as we all
Yeah.
know, feelings are fleeting.
Yep.
So I feel like this today, and then tomorrow, I don't feel like that no more. And
Yeah.
so
And
for
I think we're
men,
making mechanisms though for that nature of us, and that's why I
uh,
ultimately do think stuff like the love and deep space and stuff. I think they're good because some of it I think is like you need an outlet. Now, of course, there are gonna be people who are gonna like obsess and do the most, and
abuse
that's
it,
like
yeah,
always
Mm-hmm.
thing. But I
yeah.
think it like that's why I still play them, even though I'm happily married. I've been married for a while. We get along, but I still play them because they're just rooms for me to like get that like fluid need to be in different energies out and
Mm-hmm.
without changing partners every 4 years or cutting my hair off randomly on a Tuesday
Yeah.
and
Big
being
chop.
bald head. Yeah, like I need spaces to like use to get that energy out that are completely fantastical and don't have
It's
any
like
bearing on real life.
it's like emotional porn. Like
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
porn
it's
ain't a
but that's
problem
porn
until
for
you bring it
women,
to the bedroom.
right?
You
Yeah.
know, you find it dandy until you tell her to do a 360 flip on it. Then it's like, hold on, nigga, where
Exactly.
are we going from this? But if that's some shit you like to watch and you just keep it in there, then a lot of times it won't be a problem. When you hear Kirk
Yeah.
Franklin talk about his situation, he expected his wife to do the moves. And when you talk to the
Yeah.
actual actresses,
And
they
she don't
tell you
want to
that
do
shit. Well, if you talk to the actual actresses, they say that shit is uncomfortable.
yeah,
A
Mm-hmm.
it's
lot
an
of these guys
act.
don't understand exactly. It's an act. It's not a it's a job. It's not pleasurable necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
So
Damn.
yeah, I mean it's the same way. I think it's just like once again, if you try to compare it 1 to 1, you'll miss the point. You know what I mean? Like a lot of
Yeah.
men are looking at it like, how is this? But it's like emotional connection, emotional attunement is for
Yeah.
us that thing. That's the thing. That's the fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's at the higher thing than the visual, sexy
Yeah.
body built. man. Like we don't look for the same things. So if you don't see that this is lady porn in the sense that it's 100% emotional attunement. Like that's what we like. That's how we get our kicks and giggles.
Yeah.
The
which is why we didn't know when y'all was buried in books for so long. Y'all had them noses buried in books. We had no clue. We had
she
no
just
clue.
Loves to read. She's reading fairy porn.
Voracious reader. I'm a voracious reader.
But I think the even you bringing that up, Arshawn, the problem with that is you starting to see the effects of that particular situation. No different than like porn. When you got these guys and they expect all these women to be porn stars, you got women that expect these niggas to be Casanova. And so when you see these and when you're in a relationship with them, once you stop meeting this imaginary man they created in their head, problems start coming. And you in your head going, I ain't did nothing different, but you done read this book. I remember when I was dealing with my kid's mom, and she would tell me, "Oh, there's guys out here that do this, this, and this," and I'm like, "Okay, name them." You couldn't name one, but you done seen some video on TikTok or some shit where a nigga sat there and said, you know, he comes over and just randomly gives his BM money for no reason. It's like,
right.
Like that's not a normal thing, or that's an overinflated thing on the social media to try to, like y'all said earlier, give you like a dopamine rush, like, oh, that does exist. No,
it's just dopamine. But I do think sometimes the exploration in some things can be useful as far as people articulating it, because I think a lot of people want things that they haven't actually experienced. And sometimes you go into an energy and like, you know what, I don't like this as much as I thought I would like it in real life. So then there's sometimes always a curiosity for people to kind of sometimes bring things over. And I'm not opposed to that. I think ultimately if someone has a desire and another outlet helps them articulate it, so they can be told yes or no, I'm always pro that. I don't think the person has to say yes, but I mean, if you saying you want to try this thing and you had an option, stuck with somebody for life, it's probably a ultimately better thing to ask the person that you're stuck with for life to try it than kind of just never acknowledge that it's a desire you want. You know? So I think some of these spaces do help people try to kind of explore what they want. But a lot of people, I know you don't know about the movie, but in Baby Girl, a lot of people are stuck where she was in the beginning of the movie, where they're just like, they're with their partner and they have these wants, but then they just run off in the corner and like use that
and finish themselves off
and they never even verbalize it to their partner. And and that's kind of what I think Yella ultimately is saying. Like I think this is just going to be another way, but I'm like, women do that though. You know, they do it with other stuff, books, porn, like.
The problem though is when you take that out on your partner without, like you said, communicating with them, and they sitting there looking like, what the fuck did I do? And you're looking at them like, how dare you not give me what I need? Like,
but I think those are just like a lot of people are just emotionally immature and unable to articulate themselves. Because there ain't really no like I was watching a couple of that. You can't be mad at me for something you never even told me you wanted.
100%,
You can be disappointed that you don't have it. Go ahead.
I think that goes to what Yella's issue was, and what Tommy just mentioned a minute, like how these runaway expectations that women have. I think like just watching Kendra G, and I know Kendra G is not representative of all women, but I've seen that in real life too much to say that's just an internet phenomenon. And these women that are on the internet are coming from real life. The issue is like what they want and desire becoming an expectation and standard that can be problematic. Like they don't know what's reasonable to ask. And it's like, it's one thing to hope that a guy is both tall and wealthy and generous and loving and family oriented and godly oriented and also has 8-inch penis. It's nice to want and desire and hope for all of that. But then be like, I'm not going to settle for nothing less. It gets weird into that expectation.
Request, but it's a demand.
Like that same energy. That same energy from a request that's a demand. It gets weird. Like, well, I'll die. If he doesn't have all that, I'm going to die anyway. I'm just going to die alone. I'd rather just die alone. Like, it gets weird when it gets to that energy.
Well, I think,
and then men that aren't all of those things are lesser than. That's when it like
that situation is extreme though with the die alone. But
but that's kind of if you're unrealistic and you're fantastical, life is gonna give you that. Like, and that's why for me it's not even something I feel the need to police, because ultimately if you're
life is gonna police it.
Life gonna police because you gonna be like they say, well, why you on my show? I mean, if you got it all together and what you're asking for is reasonable, why you on my show?
Why ain't you running across it?
Why you ain't found it yet?
You're around these men all the time. You said you date these men all the time. Why is it not working out? So it's just interesting as a social experiment. It's interesting to watch that play out and see people evolve, or
But you know, it's
even if they're not
funny.
evolving, expose.
Because people who are well adjusted, I think, like, and that's why I was saying when I was talking about the game being a fantasy, I don't want men to hear that and think like, oh, well, you should be looking for that in real life. No, I fucking know it's a fantasy. That's why I play it in the game.
Yeah, but
Like,
I
because
think the problem is,
real
you
men aren't
know,
this. No, that's what I'm saying. A
yeah,
well-adjusted person. That's what I'm saying. We
exactly, yeah,
can talk about the mostly unwell-adjusted people, but we do need to establish like how a
yeah,
well-adjusted person would process these same things.
yeah.
It would just be like, yeah, these are like make-believe guys, and nobody would ever be this way because that's crazy. Like,
But I've always said this about the internet thing. To what you said, Arshawn, is I don't necessarily call it fate, but you got to realize they're asking these people. You know, they're basically like that. When you're asking somebody what you're looking for, I'm going to give you the top of the top. That doesn't mean you know. And I think the difference between men and women
That's
is
fair.
like we have this. Because that's not a normal conversation in real life. Like, hey, what are you looking for? And then a person's just going to give you their ultimate list. But if I'm on an interview, then I'm going to give you the top, because if I give you the top, then even if it doesn't meet that, it might be close to that. But if I start you off in the middle, then shit, I might get shit under that.
Yeah, you're
But
gonna low. Yep, gotta set a
but
baseline.
the difference, I think, with some of the women that kind of set that as a standard is even like say with me, and they talk about with the Instagram. Oh, y'all like these Instagram women. Yeah, we like the look, but 99% of us know, if you ask a man, you want ass or you want titties or you want both. Most dudes would probably want both, but we know we probably not gonna get both. We'd be lucky if we get one or the other, and we're good with that. And I liken when I talk to women, I liken it to I like Ferraris. I double tap them shits all the time on Instagram, but I'm gonna go outside and drive this Volkswagen. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not gonna be like the only car I'm driving is a Ferrari. No, I'm gonna drive this Volkswagen.
Or
It'd
I'm
be cool if
walking.
I get one.
but
Yeah, exactly.
I do think some of what's happening though is like a lost in translation, because a lot of times when we talk about dating on stuff, we're speaking through patriarchy in a way. And I just mean it to say, like, I think that like women hold emotional attunement and connection. I'm being very specific with my words. At the highest hierarchy, like, but that takes time and exposure
in general,
to being around. Yeah, in general, like that takes time and exposure to be around a person to know. And like back when we had more like communities and stuff and people were going outside, you had time to be around a man to kind of get that before you would like date him. But now
it was realistic to expect.
Yeah, you like knew it was realistic, and a lot of times you just dated people who you were around. Like maybe he was part of a friend group, or he went to the place you went to, or he went to school with. So like you had some time to like experience him a little bit before you would be like, oh, I kind of like him. And for women, I think that was a lot of times how it bloomed. Either he was like super hot, or it was like an exposure thing. Like I'm around him over time, and like I kind of like him vibe. But now when you're online and women are entering into that energy of like stepping into the role men traditionally would hold, now they're coming with their list of like superficial things. But the problem is with it is that we're really not. We still want the emotional attunement. But then we come with that like super superficial. He got to be 5'6'3". He got to make this. He got to make like that's our superficial list, But we still want that emotional attunement too, though, because that's just what we want. So I think sometimes when you're talking about online dating and coming into place and listing off some superficial stuff you want from a person, it's always gonna all sound like that. It's always gonna be like that.
Hey, yo, you still with us?
Yep.
All right, I want Tommy to get his point, but I wanted to ask you: was there anything else from the conversation that we didn't like address or like come to like an understanding on? Was there something that was still lingering? I know you be sometimes having them thoughts, and it'll linger for days, weeks, then it'll pop up.
He's gonna attack me on an Overwatch stream.
Go ahead, Tom. Whatever that thought was, my bad. I was interrupting.
No, SWF said the courting process is dead. I would like to know, like, when did it die? And I'll say that because, and I'll be specific, like, I grew up in the hood, so I ain't gonna lie to you, I didn't hear about courting process until I got to the internet.
Same.
Like, nigga, we saw somebody, we hollered at them, we dated, and in the dating, you figure out if you wanted to deal with this person or not. But when I hear courting process,
really courting like that. That's why
I heard courting on TV.
That's a higher echelon practice more than people say courting, but I'm like, courting literally comes from the court. Like The family would pick people, and then they would parade them around the person, and they pick, and it was a match. Like courting is like such a high.
So it's one of them internet things that people
society
make
thing.
as if it was like a regular. Because like I do that with the generational wealth thing. Like,
Right.
nigga, 99.9% of people ain't passing on no generational wealth. What the fuck are you people
And
talking
most like
about?
don't even actually like date the way dating's supposed to be done.
Right.
Most people, like you said, you talk to somebody, you hollered at them, and then y'all end up being boyfriend and girlfriend if y'all kick it long enough. Like it's not really a real dating process of like you're dating multiple people at the same time.
As much shit as I talked about this space, I have learned better ways to date from this space because for me, dating was like we holla.
Yep.
And then
after a couple weeks, after a couple months.
Yeah, then we make it official.
Then we official.
You feel me? Like it wasn't like this whole like I remember I had somebody I can't remember who was on one of the panels, this was a while ago, but they was like one of the questions they'll ask on like the first or second date is how do you feel about men? And based off of that question is whether we're gonna go out again. I'm like, damn, that's real because when you hear some of these people speak, it's like you damn near shouldn't even be dating if your mindset is like that about men. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
that's facts.
It different stuff that I've heard in here has made me look at, or even just like the intentional thing. Like I never necessarily dated with intention. I dated with, oh, okay, if we rock, then marriage is possible. But I never dated with the, okay, I'm dating you to get married, and you know, in this amount of time I want it to be done. And y'all like, I never dated like that.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think that's the reality of most people. So a lot of times,
absolutely,
you know, cultures get like all mixed up online. But a lot of people, I mean, another conversation I want to have for another day because I'm gonna have to leave in a minute. But another conversation I want to have for another day is like, when are we gonna get to the point where we like realize? I mean, and I'm saying we as a Black person, like collectively was like shafted on like being raised to be well-adjusted people who are ready to be in relationships with like other adults and stuff. Like, I just feel like a lot of these conversations is like, okay, have we come to a collective agreement that we didn't get a lot of stuff and we don't know a lot of stuff? And like, we're coming in without a lot of tools and like, because I feel like if we can't really get there, then a lot of times we're fighting to keep habits that aren't even really like like well-adjusted stuff. Like we're fighting to keep it the way it is when the way we're doing it is wrong anyway. So it's like there is actually better ways to do it, but like you can't really even be open to that if you like, no, this is just the way we're doing it and we're just gonna keep doing it. And it's like, but like, can we? I just don't feel like I feel like we're there. Like Black people talk about a lot. What's wrong with the community? But it's like it still feels like underneath that there's still a lot of protecting of the things that jacked us up in the first place.
Yeah. There's a fondness for it.
Yeah, it's like a fondness for it, or like a.
I mean, because you grew up in it.
It's like taboo to even speak on it a lot. Like, perfect example. Like, I've had to break down to people, why slavery and Jim Crow was still a situation that affects us today. Now, am I saying that when I walk outside it affects me? No, but you know, I tell people you got to realize if I talk to anybody on earth and I say if you went through slavery, you need therapy. If you got out of it.
Sure, we ain't gotta go back that far. A lot of people mamas was terrorists.
No, absolutely no. What I'm saying is I'm making a timeline. So I'm saying so all of these people got released from slavery.
Yeah.
Name the time where they offered therapy for any of these people. None. So now I would say if you and that exactly you see where I'm going. So now if you're raised by somebody who we all acknowledge wasn't mentally there because they never received therapy for the traumas they went through, then I think we all believe they're passing that down. So now, and especially when I'm talking to white people, I go, now give me the era where they offered therapy to Black people to get over these traumas that they ever been through. And they can't answer the question. But I'm like, but you don't understand why, you don't understand why our specific group have the issues that we have that's specific to us because the shit that we went through was never addressed.
I mean, at this point, I don't even need them to understand. I just need Black people to understand you was abused, neglected, and like it's not even saying you finna go call the courts and hang them or take them to trial. But like we got to we don't even have to go back that far. When I talk to most people about how they parent treat them because of survival mode, like you were speaking about earlier, really was just a scarcity survival mode thing. You just didn't have it, but we can't even get past it because we're still protecting survival mode behavior. And as long as we keep protecting survival mode behavior, we're not gonna get anywhere. A lot of people were just neglected. I have a friend who's still to this day trying to get his mom to admit that she neglected them. She's like, I didn't neglect it. When the lights set her off, I worked 3 jobs. It's like, well, then how would you even have room to be emotionally attuned to his needs? You wouldn't. You literally were never there. So why is what he's saying like you can't even fathom it?
Because you're saying she's wrong, and that's out. You can't say I'm wrong. What do you mean?
So that's a conversation, right? So that's kind of like what I just like. That's one of the other conversations because I feel like underneath a lot of this, like anxious need to control, is a background of anxious need to control, and that's how you experience love, and so you like bring it up and try to control your partner. You're like, I'm protecting you. And then they need to be protected from you. So it's not really working.
I'm with that. Definitely. I know Bree said she got to get ready to go. Yella, can you jump in with that? Because I wanted to see, was there anything else that we didn't touch on from your list of concerns about the whole bleeding topic?
No.
Like that.
The bleeding topic. Nah.
It
was bloody liar.
No. Also, that's what I'm saying. I generally didn't disagree with it.
Yeah. I know you said you came in with the devil on your shoulder, but
I
was just curious because I know there was some carryover and we didn't have a really clear understanding. I know we got greater clarity today from your position, and there's a lot to it, man. So I don't know, get ready before we go. I don't know how long, like 5, 10, 15 Bree had, but I know Tommy was in the chat. What do you think, real quick, before we get ready to wrap up, about like women playing those romance sims? Like, it's kind of like, I know they have the romance novels, but romance sims, would that bother you? Do you look at it sideways? Do you understand why they would do it? Do you think it says anything about their relationships, or like, what do you think?
I think everything is cool in moderation. You know what I'm saying? I said, when you go back to like, I don't even know if you can say that word, but the videos. If you're not bringing that to your bedroom, a lot of women won't care. Now you got some that might be insecure and it must be me, and all that type of stuff. But most, if you're not trying to have her swinging, if you're not trying to have her swinging from a chandelier, she's not going to care. So I think in that situation, if you aren't playing that game and then coming back expecting me to be that nigga in that game, I'm not gonna care. Go do you. But if you can't decipher that this is a game and this is fate, and you're putting that unrealistic expectation on me, then it's going to cause problems naturally. Like I said, the same way that if you watching those videos and you expect your woman to perform the same way that woman is performing in there, it's going to cause issues. Like, no, you're not going to choke me with your shit. What is wrong with you? Not normal. But it's like, oh, but they did in that video. Yeah, that like. So I think, like I said, I think with everything, everything is cool in moderation. Once you get outside of moderation with almost anything, hell, we can even say that about water. If you drink too much water, it's gonna be bad for you. So as long as you do it in moderation, I think it's cool. Personally, I think it's a little weird. It wouldn't bother me, but I think it's a little weird. But I'm not a woman, so it's not for me to understand. You get what I'm saying? So so for me, it wouldn't bother me though. Nah, shit. It's another reason for me not to have to talk.
No, I'm with you. Yell, any last words before we get dial up on out? Anything?
No.
Burgle? Cool. Well, man, that was a good conversation, man. I enjoyed that we got to the bottom of some of that stuff, and there's a lot to that. It's more about willingness to consider XYZ, not always an expectation. Yeah, the expectations. I think a lot of people mess up where they add expectations where they don't belong. It's okay to hope, it's okay to ask, but to expect something from another person that they did not agree to, a lot of times that's where a lot of people fall down. And it's tough because it's sometimes it's fair, or we're used to men having certain expectations put on us, and we're not allowed to reciprocate that energy. So it's hard sometimes. And I guarantee if we talk to women, they would say, well, there's expectations that they get to put on us that we don't get to reciprocate. So I know this is one of them both way things, but it'll be different topics. Like women, I know they say it a lot about like housekeeping. Like they get to expect, oh, they just gonna put this dish thing. I'm supposed to wash it, but I can't ask them to wash the dishes without a whole bunch of. So I get it. It's a both way thing, but it manifests differently between men and women. So, but yeah, man, I appreciate all of y'all, man, that popped up in the chat. Everybody on, we got Yella's Twitch, we got Breeze YouTube, my YouTube, everybody that popped in, Bible verses and everything. Appreciate all of y'all. But we gonna head out. Tommy, man, appreciate you for popping up, man.
Sure.
Yella.
Hey, what's up with the YouTube, dog? Because like, and this how I know my phone be listening to me because me and Yella was on the panel yesterday, and now I get an alert today. But the alerts, they decide when they want to alert you or not. Like, what the fuck?
They do.
Shit, weird.
Nah, it is. It is for sure, man. They be definitely listening. But all right, y'all in the chat. Nova, man. I don't know if I agree with you, Nova, man. Shout out to Nova, man. Peace, man. Hope everything's going well. But I'll see y'all later.